In the early hours of March 1, 1932, a shocking event unfolded that would capture the attention of a nation and create a lasting legacy in American crime history. The infant son of famous aviator Charles Lindbergh and his wife Anne Morrow Lindbergh, a child who had only recently been born, was kidnapped from their home in New Jersey. This tragic incident not only marked the first high-profile kidnapping of a celebrity child in the United States, but also ignited a series of events that would lead to an unprecedented nationwide manhunt and intense media coverage that typified the era. Charles Lindbergh, who gained fame for completing the first solo non-stop transatlantic flight in 1927, was at the time a national hero. His accomplishments had inspired countless individuals and had made him an icon of American achievement. His marriage to Anne Morrow, a talented writer and aviator in her own right, only added to their fame. The birth of their son, Charles Augustus Lindbergh, Jr., on June 22, 1930, was celebrated by the public, who were captivated by the couple's story. This child was viewed as a symbol of hope and joy in the midst of the Great Depression, a time of hardship for many Americans. However, that joy was shattered on that fateful night in March. The Lindberghs' home was located in the quiet town of Hopewell, New Jersey, far removed from the hustle and bustle of city life. Despite its tranquil setting, the Lindbergh residence would soon become a crime scene. The baby's nursery, a room once filled with laughter and comfort, was transformed into the focus of a terrifying manhunt. The abduction was discovered when Anne Morrow went to check on her son and found the crib empty. Panic set in as she and Charles searched frantically for their child, only to uncover a ransom note left behind by the kidnappers. This first ransom note was chilling in its demand and execution, instructing the Lindberghs to prepare a sum of $0,000, a considerable amount in 1932, intended to ensure the safe return of their baby. The note was filled with threats and instructions that would shape the next several weeks in the Lindberghs' lives. Law enforcement agencies quickly became involved, with the New Jersey State Police and the Federal Bureau of Investigation joining forces to track down the perpetrators. As news of the kidnapping spread, it sent shockwaves across the country. The Lindberghs were thrust into the spotlight, and the case drew widespread media attention, leading to a flurry of coverage that was both sensationalized and supportive. Newspapers across America followed the story closely, publishing every detail they could obtain. People from all walks of life felt a deep connection to the Lindberghs' plight and became invested in the hope of finding their beloved child. Days turned into weeks, and despite the massive manhunt, there was no sign of the baby. In the meantime, an outpouring of public sympathy for the Lindbergh family emerged. Various fundraising efforts aimed to help secure the ransom, and countless volunteers offered assistance or shared tips in hopes of bringing the baby home. The Lindberghs, despite their wealth and status, were just two parents desperate to see their child returned. Tragically, the nightmare reached a climax when the remains of Charles Augustus Lindbergh, Jr. were discovered on May 12, 1932, less than 5 miles from the Lindbergh home. The discovery brought a devastating finality to a case that had captivated a nation. The child, having only been a toddler, had been taken far too soon. The community was heartbroken, and the Lindberghs were plunged into grief. Their hopes had been shattered, and the sorrow that enveloped them was profound. The investigation then turned into a quest for justice. The authorities soon identified a suspect in the case, Bruno Richard Hauptmann, a German immigrant who had been living in New Jersey at the time of the kidnapping. Hauptmann was arrested after a witness reported seeing him with some of the ransom money, which had been carelessly left lying on a table in the Lindberghs' home. The trial that ensued captivated the nation once again. It was marked by dramatic testimony, public scrutiny, and an extensive media frenzy. There were claims of innocence, debates over guilt, and the impact of immigrant stereotypes that surfaced during the trial. The courtroom became a stage from which many narratives about justice, morality, and celebrity were told, and the world watched with bated breath, eager to know the verdict. In many ways, this case represented the intersection of wealth, fame, tragedy, and the American pursuit of justice. On February 13, 1935, after deliberation, the jury ultimately found Hauptmann guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death, and the impact of the verdict echoed through the halls of justice and in the hearts of many who had become invested in the case. The story of the Lindbergh baby kidnapping continues to resonate through American history. It highlighted vulnerabilities, the power of media, and the lengths to which people would go for justice. The case prompted legislation known as the Lindbergh Law, which made kidnapping a federal crime in the United States, reflecting a societal response to the increasing dangers facing children. As the years have passed, the Lindbergh baby case remains an enduring mystery with intricate details and complex emotions. It served to forever change the landscape of crime and criminal justice, and it stands as a cautionary tale of the fragility of life, the beauty of family, and the shadows that can unexpectedly descend upon even the most celebrated of lives. The Lindberghs' legacy is entwined with a tragedy that still evokes strong feelings today, and it serves as a reminder that in the darkest of times, hope may flicker yet, illuminating the path towards healing and understanding. Through the lens of time, this historical event speaks to the human condition, our resilience, and the quest for steady ground amidst turmoil. As we remember that fateful time in 1932, we carry forward the lessons learned, the stories shared, and the unbreakable bonds of family that endure through even the most trying circumstances. In the spring of 1974, a shocking event unfolded that would captivate the nation and leave a lasting mark on American history. This was the abduction of Patricia Hearst, an heiress to the Hearst publishing fortune. Patty Hearst, only 20 years old at the time, was living her life as a typical college student in California when her world was turned upside down. On February 4, 1974, she was kidnapped from her apartment in Berkeley by members of the Symbionese Liberation Army, a small, radical group that sought to overthrow the government and promote social justice. The SLA believed that they were acting on behalf of the oppressed. Their approach, however, was violent and controversial, and they resorted to kidnapping to gain attention for their cause. Patty's abduction was a strategic move for the SLA. They aimed to leverage her family's wealth and influence to promote their ideology. Within days of the kidnapping, the SLA released a tape in which Patty was shown reading a statement. This statement was not one of fear, but rather one of commitment. She declared her support for the SLA's revolutionary goals, which puzzled many. How could this privileged young woman align herself with a group known for violent tactics and radical beliefs? As weeks turned into months, the public watched with bated breath. Patty's story was intense and filled with twists. The release of the infamous tapes, in which she expressed her support for the SLA, caused public outrage. Many speculated that she had developed a bond with her captors, a psychological phenomenon later termed Stockholm Syndrome, where hostages bond with their captors. Despite the violence surrounding her abduction, Patty seemed to embrace the cause. She participated in their armed robberies and even wielded a weapon herself. One of the most notable moments in this saga was the March 1974 bank robbery in San Francisco. Patty, now known as Tanya, took part in the heist alongside her captors. Witnesses recounted seeing her brandishing a gun and demanding money, a stark contrast to the sheltered life she had lived before. The arrest of Patty Hearst as a participant in criminal activities raised numerous questions about her motivations. Was she acting out of fear? Was she coerced? Or had she genuinely adopted the ideology of the SLA? In September of the same year, the FBI located the location where Patty was hiding with the SLA, leading to a tense standoff. The authorities launched a raid, and amidst chaos, Patty was finally rescued. However, her story did not end there. The once glamorous heiress was subjected to a highly publicized trial. Many questioned whether she was a victim or a willing participant in the actions of the SLA. As the trial unfolded, Patty's narrative became even more complex. Testimonies from both sides painted a picture of confusion and manipulation. Patty described her captors as a family who provided her with understanding, contrasting sharply with the violent activities they engaged in. The jury struggled to navigate the murky waters of guilt and innocence. Would a young woman, raised in privilege, truly align herself with a group that espoused violence? The media frenzy surrounding Patty Hearst's story was relentless. Each development was scrutinized, and her image shifted from a victim to a villain in the eyes of many. Her trial highlighted societal attitudes toward women, privilege, and mental health. The concept of guilt became blurry, and Patty's narrative raised debates about the complexities of coercion and consent. Ultimately, Patty was convicted of bank robbery and sentenced to 7 years in prison. However, she would serve only 2 years before being released when President Jimmy Carter commuted her sentence. Patty's return to society was not necessarily easy. The public had a lasting fascination with her story, and the complexities of her experience continued to affect her life. After her release, Patty Hearst would go on to write a memoir, giving her perspective on her experiences. She also ventured into the world of entertainment, acting in movies and even appearing in television shows. The notoriety brought by her kidnapping and subsequent activities cast a long shadow over her life. Yet, over the years, she has sought to carve out a normal existence. Patty's story is a complex tapestry, woven with themes of power, identity, and survival. It has sparked discussions about the nature of victimhood and the psychological effects of trauma. Her experience remains a point of reference for discussions about coercion, freedom, and personal agency. The public remains fascinated by her life, intrigued by the intricate dynamics between captor and captive. Reflecting on Patty Hearst's journey invites contemplation about the human psyche. How does trauma alter one's identity? What role does society play in shaping perceptions of guilt and innocence? Patty's narrative intertwines with broader societal issues, highlighting nuances of class, privilege, and radical ideology. Each layer of her story prompts questions and encourages a deeper understanding of the complexities of the human experience. From the shocking moment of her abduction to her eventual re-entry into society, the legacy of Patty Hearst resonates today. Her life serves as a reminder of the fragility of individual identity in the face of external forces. As we dissect her experiences, we are led to explore the broader implications of power, control, and the enduring impact of trauma. The story of Patty Hearst is not just one of sensational headlines. It is a profound reflection of the complexities inherent in human relationships and societal influences. It challenges us to scrutinize our assumptions and recognize the multifaceted nature of human behavior. In doing so, we gain insights that extend far beyond the confines of her individual narrative, touching on universal themes that continue to shape our world today. Colleen Stan's story is both astonishing and harrowing, shedding light on the human capacity for resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity. Born in 1956, Colleen grew up in a stable, loving environment. However, her life took a tragic turn during the summer of 1977 when she was just 20 years old. On May 19, 1977, Colleen was hitchhiking from her home in California to a friend's house when she encountered a man named Cameron Hooker. Initially, Cameron seemed harmless, presenting himself as a kind figure who offered her a ride. However, this seemingly innocent gesture quickly turned into a nightmare. Instead of taking her to her destination, Cameron drove her to a remote area where he and his wife Janice had prepared a horrifying plan. Cameron Hooker abducted Colleen, subjecting her to a life of extreme captivity. He physically restrained her and forced her into a wooden box measuring just 2 feet by 3 feet, where she was confined for long hours, sometimes days. This box became her prison, a dark and claustrophobic space where she could barely move, let alone breathe freely. During her captivity, Colleen was forced to adhere to a strict set of rules, and her captor employed psychological manipulation to break her spirit and instill fear. Cameron's tactics were chilling. He would often speak to her about the so-called company, an imaginary organization that he claimed would cause her distress if she attempted to escape or disobey him. This psychological ploy kept Colleen in a state of paralyzing fear, convincing her that any attempts to resist would endanger her life. Colleen learned to survive in this grim reality by complying with Cameron's demands and adhering to his commands. Colleen's experience was further complicated by the presence of Janice Hooker, Cameron's wife. Initially, Janice seemed supportive of Colleen's captivity, but as time went on, she began to show signs of conflict. In a bizarre twist, she later expressed remorse for their actions, suggesting a complex dynamic within the household. This revelation highlighted the unpredictable nature of captivity and the emotional turmoil that can arise within such relationships. Over the years, Colleen endured countless abuses, both physical and psychological. Yet, amidst the darkness, she found a way to cope. She developed a sense of detachment, creating a mental barrier between her reality and her thoughts. This resilience can be seen as a critical element of human survival, how we can find ways to navigate even the bleakest of situations. After 7 tormenting years in captivity, an unexpected turn of events led to her eventual escape. In 1984, Cameron and Janice Hooker faced several issues in their relationship and decided to move. They agreed to release Colleen, allowing her to leave the confines of her horrific existence. Colleen was able to approach a gas station and seek help from a sympathetic owner, finally breaking the chains that had held her for years. Once safe, Colleen's journey was by no means over. The psychological trauma of her captivity lingered long after her physical escape. The process of healing would be gradual, requiring immense strength and support. She sought therapy, attempting to mend the deep emotional scars left by her experience. In many ways, her story became one of survival, a testament to the human spirit's resilience in the face of severe adversity. Colleen's case gained public attention, becoming a chilling true crime narrative. It sparked conversations around victim advocacy, psychology, and the complexities of trauma and recovery. The media coverage surrounding her story brought to light the realities of abduction and the immense challenges faced by survivors. Colleen Stan eventually used her experience to become a public speaker, sharing her journey and offering insight into the recovery process. Her story resonates deeply within the realm of true crime. It emphasizes various themes, including the psychological aspects of captivity, the influence of fear and control, and the strength needed to reclaim one's life. Colleen's narrative serves as a cautionary tale about the darker side of human nature, exploring the potential for manipulation and the resilience needed to overcome it. As we reflect on Colleen's remarkable journey, it is essential to appreciate the courage required to confront one's past. Her life illustrates that healing is possible, despite the darkness that can shroud our experiences. The human spirit is incredibly resilient, capable of rising above the most profound suffering. Thus, Colleen Stan's story stands not just as a grim account of trauma, but as an inspiring example of recovery and hope. This is a story of survival against insurmountable odds, and it underlines the importance of empathy and understanding for those who have faced unimaginable pain. Her journey serves as a powerful reminder of the strength that resides within us all, potentially waiting to emerge at the moment it's needed most. In the end, Colleen's narrative is one of triumph, a beacon of light piercing the darkness of fear, pain, and despair. In the depths of Cleveland, Ohio, lies a chilling tale of resilience and survival that captivated the nation. This story centers around three extraordinary women, Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus. Their lives changed dramatically when they were kidnapped by Ariel Castro, a man who would become infamous for the horrors he inflicted upon them. Ariel Castro was a former school bus driver, known to many in the area. He was a charismatic man, appearing friendly and approachable, which made his actions even more shocking when the truth came to light. Over the years, Castro had grown increasingly troubled, leading to a twisted fixation that would result in an unimaginable crime. The nightmare began in the early 2000s, with Michelle Knight being the first victim, taken in 2002 at the age of 21. Following her abduction, Castro would become a master of manipulation. He isolated her from the world, subjecting her to prolonged periods of abuse and confinement within the dark walls of his home. The experience was not just physical, it was emotional warfare, leaving deep scars on her psyche. In 2003, Amanda Berry, then just 16 years old, fell victim to Castro's predatory tactics. She was reported missing after failing to return home after work. Little did her family know that she was being held captive in the same house as Michelle. Berry's abduction added a new layer of complexity to Castro's reign of terror. He initially deceived her into believing that he had her best interests at heart, but the grim reality was far different. Gina DeJesus was the next to be kidnapped, taken in 2004 when she was just 14 years old. The teenagers, along with Michelle, would spend the next nearly 10 years trapped in a nightmarish existence that tested their physical and emotional limits. The lives of these women intersected in ways that forged an unbreakable bond between them. They created a support system, a flicker of hope in a world that was otherwise dark and suffocating. Inside Castro's home, the women faced constant terror. They were subjected to severe punishment, emotional manipulation, and horrific acts of violence. The isolation they endured was perhaps the most difficult aspect of their ordeal. Cut off from the outside world, they relied on each other for support, sharing stories and dreams of a life beyond their confinement. Throughout the years, the memories of their lives before captivity remained with them. They remembered the laughter of family gatherings, the simple joys of friendships, and their dreams for the future. These memories provided the strength they needed to survive each day. The turning point in this harrowing tale came on May 6, 2013. After nearly a decade of captivity, Amanda Berry courageously seized an opportunity to escape. She managed to break free from the chains of her imprisonment and stumbled into the light, her heart racing as she approached a neighbor's house. With sheer determination, she sought help, shouting for someone to assist her. The neighbor, Noticing the urgency in her voice, called 911, catalyzing a series of events that would culminate in freedom for all three women. When authorities arrived, they were met with the stark reality of what had transpired within the walls of Castro's home. The rescue operation was swift, and soon, Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus were reunited, finally emerging into a world that had been waiting for them for so long. Their emotional reunion was marked with tears and joy, a moment that underscored their extraordinary strength and resilience. The aftermath of their escape was a media frenzy, with stories broadcasted far and wide. The women became symbols of hope and survival, showcasing the human spirit's ability to endure even the darkest of times. Their courage in speaking out about their experiences inspired countless others, bringing awareness to issues of abduction and abuse. Ariel Castro was arrested and faced justice for his crimes. The court proceedings brought light to the painful realities these women endured. Castro's eventual confession and subsequent sentencing ignited debates about mental health, accountability, and the systemic failures that allowed such atrocities to occur unnoticed for so long. Each woman has since crafted her own journey of healing. Michelle Knight changed her name to Lily and became an advocate for others who have experienced trauma, using her voice to promote awareness and change. She wrote a memoir detailing her experiences and fostering discussions about resilience. Amanda Berry has dedicated herself to her daughter and public speaking, ensuring her story encourages others to be vigilant about personal safety. Gina DeJesus, too, has become an advocate, participating in community outreach programs to raise awareness and prevent such horrific events from happening again. The impact of the Cleveland kidnappings reached far beyond the three women. It sparked conversations about personal safety, the importance of community vigilance, and the need for systemic changes in how missing person cases are handled. Awareness campaigns sprang up, focusing on the need for education, preventative measures, and resources for victims of similar circumstances. As the years passed, these women continued to inspire hope and strength. Their stories serve as a reminder that even in the bleakest of times, light can be found. Their journey is not solely defined by the horrors they experienced, but by their remarkable resilience, bravery, and the unbreakable human spirit that can triumph against unimaginable odds. The Cleveland kidnappings remain a significant part of America's narrative on crime, resilience, and recovery. Their story, while tragic, is also one of empowerment, shedding light on the importance of standing together, creating a supportive community, and advocating for justice and change. In the end, the legacy of Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus lives on, driven by their commitment to helping others, and a determination to ensure that their past does not remain a silent chapter. Their voices resonate with those who seek solace and strength, reminding everyone that no matter how dark the journey may be, hope and healing are always possible. The Broberg Abductions are a compelling story of trust, manipulation, and the resilience of a young girl. Jan Broberg, a bright and cheerful girl living in Pocatello, Idaho, became the center of a shocking narrative involving her family, a trusted family friend, and a series of events that gripped not only her life, but the entire community. In the early 1970s, Jan was an ordinary girl with a close-knit family. Her parents, Mary Ann and Bob Broberg, were deeply involved in their community, and they had a strong circle of friends. Among them was a man named Robert Berchtold, who was charming and charismatic. Berchtold became a trusted figure in the Broberg household, often taking Jan and her friends on fun outings and adventures. He was perceived as a loving uncle figure, someone who could be counted on for support and fun. However, the seemingly happy facade began to crumble in 1972, when Jan was just 12. During this time, Berchtold manipulated Jan into believing they shared a special bond. This manipulation was insidious, utilizing emotional and psychological tactics that made Jan feel isolated and vulnerable, while simultaneously allowing Berchtold to exert control over her. One fateful day, Berchtold lured Jan into his home under the pretense of needing her assistance with a, quote, family emergency. This was the beginning of an ordeal that would alter the course of her life dramatically. He kidnapped her and took her to Mexico. The Broberg family was thrown into chaos as frantic searches ensued, and the police worked tirelessly to locate Jan. For months, the family lived with unimaginable fear, not knowing where their beloved daughter was or if she was safe. While in Mexico, Berchtold continued to manipulate Jan. He convinced her that her parents had abandoned her and that she was meant to be with him. The psychological trauma Jan experienced during her time away was profound. Despite being manipulated, there were moments when Jan would try to reach out for help. Her strength and desire to return home shone through, even as she was trapped in a web of deceit. Eventually, through efforts involving the FBI and persistent searches, Jan was located. Berchtold was arrested and couldn't escape the difficulties he faced with the law. However, his manipulation had left deep scars. The details of the abduction and the psychological tactics Berchtold used became a crucial part of the legal process. Yet the story did not end there. Just a year later, in 1973, Berchtold attempted to kidnap Jan again. His obsession had not faded, and he believed that he could reclaim the bond he once had with her. Luckily, Jan's family was more vigilant this time, resulting in her rescue before any serious harm could be done. The complex aftermath of Jan's abductions involved not only legal consequences for Berchtold, but also a deep emotional journey for Jan and her family. They had to navigate a landscape rife with trauma and trust issues, working towards healing while living with a chilling reminder of what had occurred. Jan Broberg's story is not one of mere victimhood, but of incredible resilience. As she grew older, she transformed her horrific experiences into powerful narratives that would help others. Her decision to share her story was fueled by a desire to educate others about the signs of predatory behavior and to break the silence surrounding such traumatic experiences. Over the years, Jan became an advocate for victims of abduction and abuse. She used her platform to highlight the importance of vigilance, communication, and openness in families. By uncovering her experiences, she aimed to empower others who have faced similar circumstances and encourage conversations about safety and trust. Jan's remarkable journey has been immortalized in various media, including documentaries and discussions. The legacy of the Broberg Abductions serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of awareness surrounding child safety, consent, and the complexities of human relationships. The ripple effect of her story goes beyond her personal experience. It resonates in households across the country, prompting parents to engage in meaningful dialogues with their children about boundaries and the significance of trust. With time, Jan embraced her narrative as part of her identity. Rather than allowing her past to define her, she became a beacon of hope for many, showcasing the strength of the human spirit. The Broberg Abductions reflect a haunting chapter in American history, marked not just by loss, but by survival and advocacy. Jan Broberg's continued journey encourages a deeper understanding of the intricacies of human relationships, the manipulations some individuals are capable of, and the importance of nurturing an environment where children feel safe, heard, and cared for. Her life tells a tale of triumph over adversity, making her message resonate in profound ways for future generations. In sharing her truth, Jan has created an impact that reaches far beyond her own experience, sparking conversations that challenge societal norms around trust and safety. The work she does serves as a powerful testament to the strength of vulnerability, the healing power of sharing one's story, and the unwavering ability to rise above even the most devastating situations. As we reflect on the Broberg Abductions, we are reminded of the importance of compassion, understanding, and the continued fight against the circumstances that can endanger our most vulnerable populations. Jan Broberg's life story continues to inspire, educate, and empower, proving that even in darkness, the potential for light and resilience exists. In June 2002, a harrowing event unfolded in Salt Lake City, Utah, that would capture the attention of the nation and become a significant case in the discussion around child abduction. 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart was taken from her home in the dead of night, leading to a frantic search that lasted nearly 9 months. This case is a compelling story of resilience, hope, and the complexity of recovery. Elizabeth was a typical teenager with dreams, hobbies, and a loving family. One fateful night marked a sudden and life-altering turn for her and her family. An intruder entered her home, taking her away at gunpoint. The abduction sent shockwaves through the community. Elizabeth's family immediately rallied, urging the public to help find their daughter. They appeared on local television shows and organized search parties to spread the word about her disappearance, hoping to elicit any tips that might lead to her recovery. The police outpouring of support was significant, with local law enforcement agencies collaborating to investigate the case thoroughly. They followed every lead, combing through evidence and speaking to residents, in hopes of finding even the smallest clue. The media coverage was relentless, and it became a daily occurrence for Elizabeth's name and face to appear on news broadcasts across the country. The emotions surrounding Elizabeth's abduction were intense. Her story resonated with countless families, igniting conversations about safety, child abduction, and the importance of community vigilance. Parents became more mindful, having discussions with their children about the reality of such dangers. Schools and community organizations initiated programs and workshops focused on personal safety education and empowerment for young people. As time passed, Elizabeth's family remained hopeful, maintaining a strong public presence to keep the story alive. They spoke about her, shared her photos, and implored anyone with information to come forward. Every day that went by without her return deepened the community's anguish, yet it also galvanized their determination to find her. Elizabeth's story took an unexpected turn on March 12, 2003, 9 months after her abduction. In a miraculous twist of fate, she was located by police in Sandy, Utah, just weeks after a tip led them to her whereabouts. The joy and relief that accompanied her rescue were overwhelming. It was a moment that many believed would never come. Upon her rescue, Elizabeth revealed that she had been held captive by Brian David Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Barzee. The pair had taken her into the wilderness, where they moved frequently to evade detection. Elizabeth endured unimaginable hardships during her time in captivity, including psychological manipulation and physical abuse. She was forced to conform to their beliefs and subjected to trauma that would leave lasting scars. The recovery journey for Elizabeth did not end with her rescue. She faced the challenge of returning to a life that was forever altered. Navigating her feelings and experiences became a complex process, with the support of her family, friends, and professionals by her side. Elizabeth exhibited incredible courage in sharing her story, raising awareness about abduction and the realities many victims face. Over the years, Elizabeth has become a powerful advocate for change. She has spoken to audiences around the world, highlighting the importance of legislation that protects children and promotes safety. Her activism has inspired countless individuals, and her story serves as a beacon of hope to those who have experienced trauma. Elizabeth embodies resilience, demonstrating that even in the face of profound adversity, there is room for healing and rebuilding one's life. The Elizabeth Smart case underscores the need for ongoing conversations about child safety and the measures communities can take to protect their children. It highlights the role of law enforcement, technology in emergencies, and community engagement in responding to abductions. This story is a reminder of the fragile nature of safety and the importance of vigilance in creating an environment where children can thrive. Moreover, Elizabeth's experience encourages a dialogue on mental health and the complexities of trauma recovery. Her journey illustrates that healing is not a linear process, but rather a series of steps that can lead to empowerment and purpose. By being open about her experiences, Elizabeth has fostered a deeper understanding of the struggles many survivors face, advocating for compassion and support as they navigate their paths to recovery. Today, Elizabeth Smart continues to be a voice for children everywhere, using her platform to educate, inspire, and advocate for policies that protect against child abduction. Her story transcends her own captivity, becoming a narrative of survival and strength that resonates with people of all ages. As we reflect on her incredible journey, we see more than an account of abduction. We witness the power of hope, the impact of community, and the enduring human spirit's capacity to triumph over adversity. In essence, the Elizabeth Smart case serves as a pivotal moment in the history of child advocacy, revealing the need for vigilance and awareness in the face of danger. Through Elizabeth's courage, we recognize the importance of listening to survivors, understanding their stories, and working toward a world where every child can feel safe and secure. Elizabeth's life, now a testament to resilience and advocacy, remains a source of inspiration and a call to action for society as a whole to become champions for children everywhere. Natascha Kampusch's story is one of resilience, survival, and unimaginable circumstances. In March 1998, at the tender age of 10, she was abducted in Vienna, Austria. Natascha's life was forever altered in a moment that would lead her into a hidden world, one marked by isolation and fear. The day of her kidnapping began like any other. Natascha was on her way to school when a man named Wolfgang Pricklepil approached her. He lured her to his vehicle under the pretense of giving her a ride. What followed was a tragic turn as he took her to a location hidden from the eyes of the world, a basement in a secluded house in the town of Strasshof. This would become her prison for the next 8 years. During her captivity, Natascha encountered severe psychological and physical challenges. She was held in a space that was not only confined, but stripped of any comfort or freedom. The days turned into years as she faced the trials imposed on her by her captor, who sought to manipulate her spirit. Remarkably, through this ordeal, Natascha exhibited an incredible strength. Inside that darkened basement, she found ways to cope with her situation. Natascha's intelligence and willpower became her tools for survival. In a constrained environment, she developed a routine, learned how to remain unnoticed, and even took opportunities to communicate subtly with the outside world. She was not just a victim. She was a person determined to find a way out. Over the years, she became a subject of media speculation, and name whispered amongst the public who were unaware of her plight. Meanwhile, her family faced turmoil. Natascha's disappearance created a rift in her life, leaving her parents to search for answers. They were left wondering about her fate, as hope dimmed after endless searches and appeals for information. Natascha's case garnered attention across Europe, sparking discussions about child safety and the extent of such crimes. As she remained captive, the public continued to speculate about her well-being, unaware of the daily battle she fought against despair and manipulation. Natascha's breakthrough moment came in August 2006. Through a calculated act of bravery, she seized an opportunity to escape. Her captor had taken her out for a moment, and in that fleeting time, she made a dash for freedom. She fled to a nearby house, where she sought help from a stranger who quickly contacted the authorities. In a matter of minutes, her life transformed from one of horror to the embrace of freedom. The aftermath of Natascha's escape was a whirlwind of events. The police apprehended Wolfgang Pricklapil, who tragically took his own life shortly after his capture, leaving many questions unanswered. Natascha returned to a world that had been spinning without her for years, and while she was free, the scars of her experience lingered. Reintegrating into society after such a profound trauma was challenging for Natascha. She navigated the complexities of interacting with people, adjusting to a world that had moved on without her. Her story drew attention, and she became a powerful figure advocating for victims of abduction and violence. Natascha used her experience to raise awareness, speak on behalf of those who could not, and encourage discussions about prevention and healing. In the years that followed her escape, she authored books that detailed her harrowing experiences and her journey towards recovery. Natascha became known not just as a victim, but as a symbol of hope and resilience. Her bravery in sharing her story inspired many and urged society to reflect deeply on the issues of child abduction and personal safety. The Natascha Kampusch case remains a significant chapter in discussions surrounding abduction and recovery. It serves as a reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the importance of raising awareness about the factors surrounding such crimes. The lessons learned from her experience continue to be relevant today as communities strive to protect the vulnerable and support those affected by violence. In exploring Natascha's story, one uncovers the layers and complexities of trauma, the journey of survival, and the incredible power of resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Her life, once confined to darkness, now stands as a beacon for change, dialogue, and the unwavering pursuit of safety for all. As we reflect on her journey, we are reminded of the fragile nature of freedom and the enduring strength that lies within each of us. The Chowchilla Bus Kidnapping is an event that not only shocked California, but left a lasting mark on the American consciousness. The year was 1976, a time of social change and upheaval in the United States. And it was during this era that a dramatic incident unfolded in Chowchilla, a small town in California's Central Valley. On July 15, 1976, a school bus filled with 26 children was returning home from a summer field trip. The group included students aged 5 to 14 years old, all filled with the excitement of a day well spent. Little did they know, their day would take a harrowing turn. The bus, driven by their beloved driver Ed Ray, made its way along a rural road when it was overtaken by a van. The bus was stopped, and the children found themselves caught in a terrifying situation. Two armed men, known as Richard and James, commandeered the bus, forcing Ed Ray and the children into a state of fear. The captors directed the bus to a remote area where the unimaginable happened. The bus was buried in a makeshift grave. The children, along with Ed Ray, were trapped inside the bus, buried beneath the weight of dirt and darkness. What followed was a nightmare filled with uncertainty and fear. As the hours passed, panic may have begun to set in. squeezed in a confined space with hardly enough air. The children and their driver needed to stretch their imaginations to overcome the terrifying predicament. Ed Ray, ever the calm figure, tried to reassure the children, tapping into his role as their guardian. He knew that in moments like this, staying composed was vital. The experience challenged the children's resilience and creativity, forcing them to adapt to their environment. Inside the bus, the children were in the dark, left to entertain each other as they waited for help. They shared stories, sang songs, and even played games to keep their spirits up, focusing on happier thoughts. The strong bonds formed would eventually become a key element of their collective strength. They were together in this extraordinary situation, finding comfort and camaraderie, even amidst fear. Meanwhile, outside, the clock was ticking down. Law enforcement authorities quickly became involved, recognizing the severity of the situation. Once the bus was reported missing, a massive search effort was launched. The community rallied, parents grew anxious, and the urgency of the situation became clear. Local authorities, along with FBI agents, tirelessly combed the area looking for any sign of the bus and its occupants. After more than 16 hours of being trapped, Ed Ray and the children managed to find a way to dig themselves out of their predicament. Utilizing their collective strength, they began to push their way through the dirt that surrounded them. Each hand that grasped the soil represented hope, determination, and unity. Finally, on the morning of July 16th, they emerged from the ground, weary but alive, a testament to their spirit. Once outside, they quickly sought help, leading rescuers back to the bus's location. They had survived one of the most horrifying experiences imaginable, but the ordeal was not yet over. The children and their driver were all taken to safety. However, the focus shifted to capturing the kidnappers. The entire nation's attention turned to the case, eager for justice. The two kidnappers were eventually apprehended, and this led to a lengthy legal process. What followed was a public trial that drew considerable media attention. The kidnapping was more than just a criminal act. It highlighted questions about safety, community vigilance, and childhood innocence. The emotional scars that remained affected not just the children, but everyone in Chowchilla. The incident led to changes in safety regulations for school transportation and sparked conversations about child safety and the protection of vulnerable communities. While the physical scars healed over time, many people carried the memories of that fateful day with them forever. The story of Chowchilla is not just one of abduction, but also of resilience, the strength of community, and the power of hope. In the years that followed, the former abducted children grew up and went on to lead lives beyond what they could have imagined as kids. Many became advocates for children's rights, ensuring that their voices would be heard. They transformed their trauma into a force for good, inspiring others with their stories of survival and strength. As we look back on the events of that day in Chowchilla, it serves as a reminder of the fragility of security and the importance of community in times of crisis. It also highlights how human spirit can shine brightly, even in the darkest of moments. The children of Chowchilla will always be viewed as heroes, not just for surviving a tragic situation, but for the way they came together, supported one another, and emerged stronger than ever. This event remains an essential part of history, a cautionary tale about the vulnerability of childhood and the strength of the human spirit. It underscores the importance of awareness and unity in facing challenges, instilling lessons that resonate to this day. The Chowchilla Bus Kidnapping became a story of resilience, reflecting the complexities of human experience while highlighting the power of hope in overcoming adversity. Jaycee Dugard is a name that resonates deeply in the conversation surrounding abduction and resilience. Her story is one that many remember or have heard about, as it unfolds with a mixture of tragedy, horror, and ultimately, hope. In 1991, when she was just 11 years old, Jaycee's life took a drastic turn that would alter the course of her childhood and shape her future in unimaginable ways. It all began on a normal day in South Lake Tahoe, California, where Jaycee was waiting for a school bus. This seemingly ordinary moment became the beginning of an extraordinary and harrowing ordeal. On that day, a man named Philip Garrido, with criminal motivations, approached Jaycee with false pretenses. He was not alone. He was accompanied by a woman, whom he identified as his wife. The couple lured Jaycee into their vehicle, and in the blink of an eye, she was kidnapped. What followed was an unimaginable span of time, marked by fear and isolation. Jaycee was taken to Garrido's home in Antioch, California, where she would spend the next 18 years of her life hidden from the world. During this time, she faced numerous challenges and traumas that would test her spirit and resilience in profound ways. Her captors sought to control her completely, instilling fear and confusion. The outside world faded away, as Jaycee was forced to live under the oppressive weight of captivity, often believing that her family had forgotten her. To understand the complexity of her experience, it's essential to recognize the profound psychological manipulation she endured. Garrido, through systematic abuse, sought to create a reality where Jaycee felt entirely dependent on her captors. This tactic of manipulation is not uncommon in cases of long-term abduction, where victims may develop bonds with their captors, a phenomenon known as Stockholm Syndrome. Such a psychological shift can make it incredibly difficult for victims to seek help or escape. Even in the darkest moments, Jaycee exhibited remarkable strength. She found ways to cope with her harrowing circumstances. Over the years, she bore 2 children fathered by Garrido, whom she raised within the confines of her captivity. Despite the trauma, her maternal instincts shone through, showcasing her resilience. Jaycee found solace in her children, striving to provide them with love and a sense of normalcy amid their turbulent existence. After nearly 2 decades of captivity, the turning point in Jaycee's ordeal came unexpectedly. In 2009, the Garridos were approached by law enforcement due to Philip's peculiar behavior. Garrido had been under probation for a previous crime and was required to register as a sex offender. During a visit from law enforcement, Jaycee was given the opportunity to speak to authorities anonymously, marked by a sense of desperation. She provided her captors' names and finally revealed her true identity as a missing child. The moment Jaycee stepped into the light of freedom was monumental, but it also marked the beginning of another journey, the process of recovery and reintegration into society. The public was captivated by her story, which raised questions about how such horrific events could unfold unnoticed for so long. The investigation that followed revealed numerous failures in the system, highlighting gaps that allowed Garrido to perpetuate his crimes without consequence. Jaycee's re-entry into the world was not without its challenges. Over 8 years of her life had vanished into the shadows, and she had to grapple with the realities of trauma. However, she also found an incredible strength within herself to reclaim her narrative. Her courage to share her story with the world brought immense attention and sparked conversations about missing children, the plight of victims, and the strategies needed to prevent such tragedies in the future. Today, Jaycee Dugard continues to advocate for those affected by abduction and trauma. She has become an author and public speaker, using her voice to inspire hope and resilience in others. Through her foundation, she aims to provide resources to families of missing children, ensuring that others have the support they need to navigate their own journeys of healing and recovery. In conclusion, the story of Jaycee Dugard is a sobering reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. It underscores the importance of vigilance, awareness, and the need for a community to come together to protect the vulnerable. Her experience serves as a powerful testament to the strength that can emerge from adversity. Through her courage, she became not just a survivor, but a symbol of hope, showing the world that even in the darkest circumstances, light can be found, and healing is possible. The implications of her story extend far beyond her personal journey, urging society to engage in meaningful dialogue about safety, the importance of the community, and the vital need for vigilance in protecting the most innocent among us. Her legacy demonstrates that while horrific events can shape a life, they do not have to define its entirety. In 2001, a chilling story unfolded in the United States that would capture national attention and highlight the themes of resilience and hope in the face of danger. The story revolves around a young woman named Sluti, who was just 17 years old at the time of her abduction, and the extraordinary events that took place during her ordeal. Sluti was living in the small town of Kearney, Nebraska, where she was known for her vibrant spirit and bright future ahead of her. On that fateful day in April, she was collecting her belongings from a friend's house when her life took a harrowing turn. She was approached by a man named Sean Hornbeck, who would later become infamous for his role in her abduction. Under the guise of needing assistance with his vehicle, Hornbeck coerced Anne into his car, and the nightmare began. What followed was a mix of fear, courage, and sheer willpower. Anne found herself at the mercy of Hornbeck, who was not just an ordinary criminal. He was a manipulative individual with a violent history, and he had plans for Anne that would shake her to the core. As she was driven into a remote area, the gravity of her situation sank in, and thoughts raced through her mind. But while it was an incredibly frightening experience, and displayed remarkable strength and resilience. As she was taken deeper into the unknown, Anne managed to remain composed. She engaged Hornbeck in conversation, trying to glean information and build rapport, hoping to find an opportunity to escape. Her instincts kicked in, and she was determined to survive. This cooperation was a brilliant tactic, as it not only kept Hornbeck from becoming overly aggressive, but also allowed Anne to make mental notes of their surroundings. Anne's fortitude would be tested during those terrifying days. She used every moment to stay observant. Meanwhile, law enforcement officials were alerted to her disappearance and sprang into action, beginning an extensive investigation. Police began to gather details and tips, and the urgency to find Anne intensified as each passing hour raised the stakes. Days turned into a complex manhunt that would span state lines, involving multiple law enforcement agencies. The public anxiously awaited any updates, holding on to hope for a safe resolution. As Anne faced her captor, she cleverly seized a chance to escape. She learned that Hornbeck was scheduled to visit a laundromat where he often washed their clothes. On the day of their visit, Anne's heart raced at the thought of a possible escape. After a brief moment of hesitation, Anne made the bold decision to run. The chase was intense, as Hornbeck quickly realized she was fleeing and gave chase. The adrenaline surged through her, propelling her forward. With determination in her eyes, she dashed onto a busy highway, drawing the attention of passing vehicles. In the midst of this chaotic chase, a courageous truck driver noticed Anne's distress and quickly intervened. He pulled over, allowing Anne to jump into his cab. The driver made a quick call to the police, detailing what had just transpired. It was a heroic move that showcased the impact of community vigilance and compassion. Little did they know, this act would lead law enforcement right to Hornbeck, who was still in pursuit of Anne. The police, having been alerted to the situation by the truck driver, swiftly mobilized. Detectives worked in unison with local officers, covering ground in a race against time as Hornbeck recklessly drove down the highway. The situation escalated as officers set up roadblocks and deployed spike strips, a tactic designed to immobilize Hornbeck's vehicle. What happened next was a scene reminiscent of action movies. Law enforcement managed to track Hornbeck down, preventing him from escaping. The ensuing high-speed chase saw police pursuing the suspect through Nebraska, leading to dramatic confrontations and a fortified resolve to protect Anne. Ultimately, Hornbeck's vehicle was disabled, bringing the chase to a conclusion. In a powerful culmination of bravery and resilience, Hornbeck was apprehended, and the nightmare that had befallen Anne was finally over. Law enforcement officers rushed to ensure she was safe, wrapped in the warm embrace of relief and reassurance. The sense of community and collaboration between citizens and police played a vital role in ensuring Anne's safe return. Anne's abduction and rescue garnered significant media attention and sparked discussions about abduction prevention, community safety, and the importance of vigilance. This story serves as a reminder of the power of the human spirit, not just in survival, but in the collective strength of communities coming together in the face of adversity. As Anne Sluti took her first steps back into the world of freedom, her story wasn't just one of loss and danger, but also one of hope and resilience, proving that even in the darkest moments, light can shine through. Her journey became a source of inspiration for many, showcasing the importance of courage, strength, and the undying will to survive when everything seems lost. Years later, Anne would share her experiences, speaking to groups about the importance of awareness and personal safety, and becoming an advocate for others who have experienced traumatic events. Her journey is a testament to the struggles faced by many and serves as a beacon of hope for those who may find themselves in situations beyond their control. The lessons learned from Anne's story continue to resonate, reminding us that even in dire circumstances, there is always a path toward recovery and renewal. The Lindbergh case is one of the most notorious kidnapping cases in American history, and it took place in the early 1930s. The story revolves around Charles Lindbergh, a celebrated aviation hero after his historic solo flight from New York to Paris in 1927, and his wife, Anne Morrow Lindbergh. Their firstborn child, Charles Jr., was kidnapped from their home in New Jersey on March 1, 1932. This shocking event sent ripples through America and garnered intense media attention. The initial discovery of the kidnapping was heart-wrenching. Charles Jr. was just 20 months old at the time, and his disappearance from the family's home ignited widespread panic and concern. The family's plea for his safe return resonated with the public, What followed was a series of ransom notes that would make this case even more infamous. The first ransom note was delivered to the Lindberghs shortly after their son was abducted. It demanded a ransom of 0,000, an immense sum at that time, and specified that the money was to be delivered in cash. The note was strikingly organized and instructive, leaving no doubts about the seriousness of the situation. The instructions were clear. The Lindberghs were not to contact the police or attempt to track the kidnapper. Naturally, this crossed the family's mind since they knew the risk of involving the authorities. As more notes followed, each seemed to convey an undeniable sense of urgency and danger. The second note included even grander demands, reflecting the kidnapper's confidence. Each missive was a prior warning to the family of what might happen should they deviate from the instructions. The composition of the notes demonstrated a certain methodical approach, with specific requests for the way the money should be prepared and delivered. Interestingly, the notes also contained elements that hinted at the kidnapper's personality. For example, they exhibited an awareness of the Lindbergh family's social standing, and the precise wording suggested someone who was not only educated, but also had a grasp of the media attention the case was receiving. This awareness perhaps made the case more compelling, as it became a public spectacle. The presence of multiple notes added to the sinister nature of the crime. The demands and the character of the notes fascinated the media and the public. Each subsequent note created waves of speculation regarding the identity of the kidnapper. The case received immense media coverage, and as the pressure mounted on the Lindberghs, the public became embroiled in the saga. Citizen detectives emerged, eager to assist in the investigation, all while the family waited anxiously for any new developments. As the ransom notes progressed, law enforcement attempted to trace the handwriting and analyze the language used. Experts endeavored to profile the kidnapper based on the correspondence. They sought patterns, looking for clues that might reveal the criminal's identity or provide insights into their whereabouts. Attempts to track the notes were ongoing, but the kidnapper remained elusive. The tension surrounding the ransom notes amplified when, after a prolonged negotiation through the notes, the Lindberghs did finally gather the money requested. Charles Lindbergh himself took on the responsibility of delivering the ransom in an effort to recover his child. The act of delivering the ransom was fraught with anxiety, unsure if it would lead to a safe return or a further entanglement in danger. These high-stakes negotiations highlighted the complexity of desperation. However, the twist in the case reached a grim climax. Tragically, Charles Jr.'s body was discovered several months later, not far from the Lindberghs' home, leading to widespread heartbreak and outrage. The discovery changed the case's trajectory and brought an even darker tone to the investigation. At that point, the ransom note served to illustrate not just the kidnapper's demands, but also the profound sadness and loss that enveloped the Lindbergh family. As investigations continued, authorities made progress in tracing the notes back to an individual who had a complicated backstory. The resulting trial garnered even more media coverage, revealing a public hungry for not just justice but closure. The figure focused on in the trial was Bruno Hauptmann, a German immigrant who was ultimately convicted of the crime and sentenced to death. As a historical event, the Lindbergh case transcended its immediate tragedy to raise wider discussions about crime, media influence, and public hysteria. The ransom notes became symbols of the fear and anxiety of the time, reflecting both the societal context and the emotional turmoil experienced by those involved. Residents in the surrounding areas often speculated and theorized, and the urban legend surrounding the kidnapping deepened as the public sought to come to terms with the tragedy. In the aftermath, the ramifications of the Lindbergh kidnapping influenced how future kidnappings were approached. Law enforcement and families alike learned lessons from this case, shaping strategies around ransom and negotiation in subsequent generations. Over the years, the details surrounding the ransom notes and the dynamics they encapsulated continued to be scrutinized by historians, true crime aficionados, and writers. The Lindbergh ransom notes were more than mere pieces of paper demanding money. They became part of a complex narrative involving a family in anguish, a nation captivated by tragedy, and a justice system grappling with sensational crime. Today, they remain a poignant reminder of how events can unfold in unpredictable ways, consumed by the media and the public, forever altering the lives they touch. Through these notes, history understands the depths of despair, the lengths one might go to, and the enduring scars left on a family and society at large. The story of Kamiyah Mobley is one that encompasses a complex mix of emotions, questions of identity, and the unbreakable bonds of family. It begins in July of 1998 in Jacksonville, Florida, at the University Medical Center. On a humid day, with the sun casting its light through the windows of the maternity ward, a baby girl was born. Her name was Kamiyah Mobley. However, this joyous occasion took an unexpected turn, one that would alter the course of her life and the lives of those around her drastically. Just hours after her birth, Kamiyah was abducted from the hospital by a woman posing as a nurse. This woman, Gloria Williams, had walked into the hospital with a plan and a desperate desire to have a child of her own. Under the pretense of simply doing her duty, she took the newborn right from her mother's side. It was a calculated move, exploiting the vulnerabilities of a hospital environment where new parents are often overwhelmed with joy but also fatigue. Before long, the precious infant was gone, setting off a frantic search that would capture the attention of law enforcement and the public alike. As time went by, Gloria Williams raised Kamiyah as her daughter, giving her the name Alexis Manigo. She built a life for her within a small community, and Kamiyah grew up surrounded by love, though the truth of her origins remained hidden from her. Gloria created a narrative that was convincing, and to Kamiyah, her life was filled with the experiences typical of childhood: birthday parties, first days at school, and family gatherings. However, there were also peculiarities that Kamiyah couldn't shake off. There were glimpses of doubt, questions that sometimes sprang to her mind, seemingly without reason. For instance, during one of her visits to the doctor, she would notice how different her situation appeared compared to other children. Conversations with peers about their family lives sometimes left her pondering. There was always a lingering thought, an itch she couldn't scratch regarding her identity and who she truly was. As her teenage years approached, Kamiyah began to explore these feelings further. She turned to the internet, seeking out information and perhaps even yearning to uncover a truth she felt was hidden from her. She found herself caught up in social media discussions and the stories of others like her. It was during this time of exploration that she met individuals who encouraged her to dig deeper into her past. The journey was not just about the search for answers, but also about discovering more about herself, examining who she really wanted to be versus who she had been conditioned to be. The breakthrough came in 2016, nearly 2 decades after her abduction. With the rise of technology and advancements in DNA testing, Kamiyah decided to take a leap of faith. She conducted a DNA test in hopes of finding answers. What she uncovered shook her world entirely. The results confirmed her fears and also her hopes. She was not who she had believed she was. The biological connection to her true family was there, a lineage that extended beyond the confines of the life she had known. There was a mother who had spent almost 20 years searching for her. The news rippled through the communities involved, with Kamiyah's biological mother, Shanara Mobley, publicly expressing her overwhelming emotions at the reunion. It was a moment of joy intertwined with sorrow, the joy of finding a child thought to be lost forever, but at the same time the sorrow of the years lost that could never be retrieved. For Kamiyah, it represented a new beginning, filled with unanswered questions about her time growing up, as well as the effect it had on her life. As the story of Kamiyah Mobley spread, it raised discussions about the system that failed both her and her biological family. Many began to question how someone could be taken so easily from a hospital, a place meant to be a sanctuary, without immediate consequences. The media portrayed Kamiyah's journey as one of resilience and discovery, shining a light on larger issues of adoption, identity, and the strength of familial bonds, whether biological or chosen. Kamiyah's story also highlighted the challenge of reconnecting with a past that, while covered in love, was also cloaked in deception. Her understanding of family transformed as she began to build relationships with those connected to her biological roots. While she would continue to care for the only mother she had known, Kamiyah now had the opportunity to embrace her full identity, a gift that comes with both light and shadows. Thus began a new chapter in Kamiyah's life, one that nuanced the definition of family and identity moving forward. It was not an easy adjustment and brought its challenges. The emotional toll of shifting paradigms can be heavy, as one must navigate the waters between 2 vastly different upbringings. Kamiyah learned to embrace the complexities of her reality, accepting that life often brings dualities. Her identity was no longer singular. It branched into many relationships that colored her existence. In the years that followed her discovery, Kamiyah worked to speak on her experiences, hoping to lend her voice to issues such as domestic crime and child abduction awareness. She sought to empower others who might also be dealing with the fragility of identity and belonging, encouraging them to seek the truth, no matter how difficult it may be. Speaking out was her way of reclaiming her narrative, transitioning from a story of victimhood to one of empowerment. Furthermore, Kamiyah's experiences have sparked dialogues about the importance of family connections, the intricacies of love, and the resilience of the human spirit. Her journey has the power to inspire others to seek their paths, no matter how unclear they may appear. For many, it serves as a lesson that life does not always follow a straightforward path, but often takes turns that lead to unexpected places. Reassurance that it's never too late to discover oneself, no matter the circumstances. The ongoing conversations surrounding Kamiyah Mobley and her story continue to resonate. They delve into the depths of family, the right to know one's origins, and the fundamental question of what it means to belong. Kamiyah's journey serves as a beacon of hope and a reminder that, even when faced with unimaginable challenges, there is always room for understanding, acceptance, and love. Through her experiences, she not only redefined her own narrative, but empowered others to explore, question, and embrace their unique identities. As we reflect on the powerful and emotional story of Kamiyah Mobley, it is a testament to the enduring human spirit and the relentless search for truth, a journey that is as inspiring as it is transformative. Her life is a canvas painted with shades of love, loss, and the rediscovery of self, a poignant reminder that every story holds the potential for growth and change, urging us all to pursue the narratives we wish to tell. The 2004 Beslan school siege is one of the most harrowing events in modern history, a tragic incident that struck deep into the heart of a community in the North Ossetia region of Russia. The events unfolded over 3 days, from September 1st to September 3rd, and left a lasting scar not only on those directly involved, but also on the nation and the world. On that fateful morning, a group of armed militants stormed School No. 1 in Beslan, taking more than 1,000 hostages, including students and their parents who were gathered for a celebration to mark the first day of the school year. The start of a new academic year is usually filled with joy and excitement. However, that day took a dark turn. The terrorists, believed to be linked to a separatist movement in Chechnya, sought to make a statement demanding the withdrawal of Russian troops from Chechnya and the recognition of their rights. As the siege began, the school was quickly surrounded by police and military personnel. Negotiations started, but they were complicated and fraught with tension. The hostage-takers were heavily armed and clearly prepared to use violence. Inside the school, people were held in brutal conditions, with little food or water. There were scenes of chaos and terror as families were separated, and fear permeated the atmosphere. Throughout the siege, the world watched, anxiously awaiting news and updates. Various attempts at negotiation were made, and the Russian government faced mounting pressure to resolve the situation peacefully. However, the militants remained defiant and continued to issue demands that seemed increasingly distant from any possible compromise. As the hours turned into days, hope began to fade. Tensions boiled over, and on the third day of the siege, a series of explosions occurred. The chaos that erupted was unimaginable. Security forces stormed the school in an attempt to rescue the hostages, but the situation spiraled rapidly out of control. Gunfire rang out, and the violence escalated. Many were caught in the collision of fierce gun battles and explosions, leading to an overwhelming sense of panic. In the aftermath of the siege, the true scale of the tragedy became apparent. When the dust settled, over 330 people lost their lives, including 186 children. The public reaction was one of horror and disbelief. People around Russia and globally mourned the victims, honoring their memory and expressing solidarity with the bereaved families. The event raised numerous questions about security, the effectiveness of government responses, and the safety of public spaces. The Beslan school siege remains a profound reminder of the human cost of conflict and terrorism. It prompted discussions about the struggles faced by communities living in regions marked by violence and conflict, particularly in areas where historical grievances and demands intersect with modern geopolitical realities. It highlighted not only the importance of security measures, but also the need for compassion and understanding in addressing the root causes of such violence. In the years that followed, the school building was transformed into a memorial, a place of reflection and remembrance for those who were lost. Annual commemorations were held to ensure that the stories of the victims and the lessons learned from that tragic event would never be forgotten. The pain of the survivors and the families of the victims continues to resonate in discussions about terrorism and the impact it has on innocent lives. This catastrophe serves as a backdrop for conversations about peace, reconciliation, and the importance of addressing grievances that lead to such extreme acts. It also emphasizes the resilience of communities faced with unimaginable loss, as many have come together to support one another and foster a sense of unity and healing. The world is constantly evolving, and while the shadows of past events linger, they also serve to remind us of the importance of empathy, understanding, and the shared responsibility to work towards a safer future for all. As societies reflect on the implications of the Beslan school siege, the hope remains that through dialogue and cooperation, a deeper understanding can emerge, fostering a world that prioritizes peace and compassion over conflict and division. In many ways, events like the Beslan school siege challenge us to confront the realities of human behavior, the capacity for both kindness and cruelty. They remind us that the fight for justice and peace is an ongoing journey, one that requires commitment from individuals and communities alike. Each story of loss and survival holds the power to inspire change, showing that even in the darkest moments, the human spirit can strive to illuminate the path forward. The memory of the lives lost in Beslan continues to echo as a call to action for individuals and governments around the world. It pushes us to advocate for change, to listen to one another, and to stand together against the tide of violence. A commitment to remembrance, reflection, and the pursuit of understanding will ensure that the legacy of the victims is honored, and that their stories inspire not only awareness, but also positive action towards creating a world where such tragedies are no longer commonplace. Through education and dialogue, we can work towards breaking the cycle of violence. Awareness of the past encourages us to build bridges rather than walls, to foster understanding where there is division. Ultimately, it is the hope of those who strive for peace that the lessons of the Beslan school siege will lead humanity toward a future marked by compassion, empathy, and harmony. Such reflections on history can empower communities to challenge the narratives of hatred and fear, cultivating a culture that values life and strives for a world where every individual is respected and every voice is heard. The legacy of the Beslan school siege reminds us that the stories of those affected by such tragedies should never be forgotten. It urges us to honor their memories by being proactive in our communities, advocating for justice, and nurturing a world built on mutual respect and love. Together, may we strive for a future that turns anguish into understanding and grief into hope, carrying forward the lesson that every life matters and that peace is always worth pursuing. The John Paul Getty case is one of the most infamous kidnapping stories in modern history, capturing the attention of the world in the early 1970s. It centers on John Paul Getty III, the grandson of J. Paul Getty, one of the richest men in the world at the time. This remarkable tale mixes wealth, power, greed, and family dynamics, creating a narrative that is both fascinating and disturbing. John Paul Getty III was born in 1956 into a life of privilege. His grandfather, J. Paul Getty, was an oil magnate with a fortune that set the standard for wealth. The Getty family was known not only for their vast riches, but also for their complex relationships. John Paul III, often known as Paul, lived in a world filled with luxury. However, in 1973, at the age of 16, his life would take a perilous turn that none could have anticipated. On July 10, 1973, Paul was kidnapped in Rome, Italy by a group of criminals. They aimed to extract a ransom from his wealthy grandfather, believing that a man of such considerable means would have no hesitation in paying for the safe return of his grandson. The kidnappers initially demanded a ransom of $7 million, an amount that emphasized both the desperation of the situation and the prospects of wealth involved. Interestingly, J. Paul Getty was known for his frugality, despite his enormous fortune. He was reputed to live modestly, often refusing to splurge on even the most basic luxuries. When approached about the ransom demands, Getty famously stated that he would be willing to pay only a fraction of the amount requested, saying he had many other grandchildren to consider. His reluctance to pay the full ransom underscored his character as a businessman who was reluctant to part with his money, even under such dire circumstances. As the situation unfolded, the kidnappers grew impatient. After several weeks of negotiations, Getty eventually agreed to pay a reduced ransom of $0.9 million, a significant amount but still far below the initial demand. To facilitate this, he arranged for the payment through a loan, unwilling to part with his fortune without the assurance of Paul's safe return. In the midst of the turmoil, Paul Getty III was held captive in a cramped, deplorable setting. The conditions were challenging. and he faced moments of fear and uncertainty. While the negotiations continued back in the United States, Paul's captors displayed a merciless attitude towards their hostage. The situation escalated, leading to a grim turn of events when, after the ransom had been paid, Getty's captors severed his ear and sent it to a newspaper, emphasizing their willingness to resort to violence to make their demands clear. This shocking act drew public attention, and the media eagerly covered the story, turning it into a sensational news phenomenon. For many, it became a stark example of the extremes to which humanity could go in pursuit of wealth and power. The horror of the ear sent to the press illustrated the thought that no one, regardless of wealth, was truly safe from those who existed outside the lines of society. The ransom situation was fraught with tension. Getty's family found themselves caught between the demands of the kidnappers and the media frenzy that swirled around them. Ultimately, the ruthless nature of the situation became overwhelmingly apparent, pushing the Getty family to confront its own dynamics. Paul's mother, Abigail Getty, was devastated by the events, facing the reality of a family caught in this perilous ordeal. In the aftermath of the ransom payment, John Paul Getty III was released in December 1973, 5 months after he was taken hostage. However, the reunion was bittersweet. Paul returned to a world that had been irrevocably changed. The trauma of his kidnapping left lasting scars, both physical and emotional. His life would never return to the carefree nature it had once possessed. The kidnappers were eventually arrested, but the case was anything but closed. As law enforcement pursued justice, the public remained intrigued by the complex web of motives and desires that played into the kidnapping narrative. For J. Paul Getty, the incident raised questions about his family legacy and how wealth could serve as both a shield and a vulnerability. Despite the dark nature of the events surrounding the kidnapping, the story of John Paul Getty III highlights the intersection of wealth and human experience. It raised eyebrows not only due to the circumstances of the crime, but also because it forced society to reflect on the nature of familial connections and responsibilities. The case remains relevant today, serving as a reminder that money cannot shield individuals from the world's darker realities. John Paul Getty's life took additional turns in the years following his release. Struggling with the aftermath, he faced personal battles, including substance abuse and health issues. The legacy of the kidnapping cast a long shadow over his life, leading him to explore various avenues of healing and recovery. His experiences brought to light the importance of mental health and the sometimes overlooked psychological impacts that traumatic events can have. The John Paul Getty case encapsulates a gripping narrative of kidnapping and the complexities of familial relationships. Through the lens of this story, we see how ordinary lives can intersect with extraordinary circumstances, drawing forth both fear and resilience. The legacy of J. Paul Getty III serves as a powerful reminder of the unpredictability of life, illustrating how wealth can create security on the surface while exposing vulnerabilities beneath the surface. As society examines and dissects this moment in time, the John Paul Getty case continues to resonate, not only as a tabloid headline, but as a profound commentary on human behavior. The case invites us to question the nature of wealth, the bonds of family, and the human spirit's capacity to endure and heal amidst chaos. Even decades later, the echoes of this event still engage our curiosity and provoke thoughtful discussions about the nature of power, agency, tragedy, and the many forms that love can take amidst hardship. In the heart of Vancouver, a city known for its stunning landscapes and vibrant culture, a promotional event took a dark turn, capturing the attention of the public and raising questions about safety and ethics in marketing. This incident, often referred to as the Vancouver Kidnapping Stunt, unfolded in a manner that few could have anticipated. The stunt was designed to promote a new escape room experience, a popular trend where participants solve puzzles and riddles to escape a themed room within a set time limit. The promotional team wanted to create buzz and excitement around their business, hoping to attract new clients. However, their idea quickly spiraled out of control, leading to unforeseen consequences. On the day of the planned event, a group of actors depicted a dramatic kidnapping scene. Dressed in menacing outfits, they staged a scenario where they abducted an individual from a public location. The actors shouted, creating a scene filled with chaos and urgency. To many unsuspecting passers-by, this was no mere publicity stunt. It was an alarming situation that seemed all too real. As the scene unfolded, onlookers stood frozen in shock, their instincts kicked in, leading to a mix of confusion and concern. Bystanders began to pull out their phones, recording the dramatic events while others rushed to intervene, thinking they were witnessing a true emergency. The atmosphere became tense as the actors tried to convey that this was all part of a planned event. Unfortunately, their message did not come across effectively. The local authorities were quick to respond. Reports of a potential kidnapping flooded in, prompting police to dispatch units immediately. Officers arrived on the scene only to discover the reality of the situation. They quickly calmed the crowd and addressed the actors, who were still engaged in their performance. However, the damage had already been done, and the excitement was overshadowed by panic. As news of the incident spread across social media, public outrage grew. Many felt that the organizers had crossed a line in their attempt to promote the escape room business. What was meant to be a fun, engaging way to spark interest, instead became a lesson on the importance of reading the room and understanding the boundaries of creative marketing. In the aftermath, the organizers issued an apology, acknowledging that their approach had been misguided. They emphasized their intent was never to instill fear but to entertain. It became clear that the line between marketing ingenuity and ethical responsibility can be razor thin, and they learned this lesson in a very public manner. City officials and marketers began to reevaluate their strategies. The Vancouver kidnapping stunt served as a case study in marketing ethics, prompting discussions about the ways businesses engage with the public. How can marketers create memorable experiences without compromising safety and well-being? How can they ensure that their messages are clear and do not lead to misunderstandings? In the end, the incident highlighted the unpredictable nature of public perception. What one person might find entertaining, another may see as a threat. It underscored the need for marketers to be mindful of the environment in which they operate. The Vancouver kidnapping stunt became a reminder of the delicate balance between creativity and responsibility, emphasizing that a great idea can sometimes lead to unforeseen consequences if not executed with care. As time passed, the memory of the stunt faded, but the discussions it sparked continued to resonate within the community. The event became part of local lore, a story told among friends and colleagues about a time when a marketing tactic took a dramatic turn. Marketers learned to think outside the box while keeping empathy and ethics firmly in the frame. In a world where attention is fleeting and competition is fierce, the challenge remains. How can businesses stand out without taking unnecessary risks? As the industry evolves, the Vancouver kidnapping stunt will undoubtedly serve as a cautionary tale for those looking to harness the power of surprise and spectacle in their promotional endeavors. It serves as a valuable lesson in the importance of clarity, context, and consideration in marketing campaigns. The incident also sparked broader conversations about public safety and support for local businesses. Community members began to advocate for guidelines regarding promotional events, emphasizing the importance of transparency and communication. Local governments took notice and initiated discussions on creating a framework that would allow businesses to engage the public creatively while ensuring safety and security. As the dust settled on the Vancouver kidnapping stunt, the city emerged with a renewed sense of awareness. While some may have been skeptical of the marketing tactics employed, the overall sentiment leaned towards understanding the complexities of engagement in a bustling urban environment. The incident became a talking point in marketing classes and workshops, highlighting the importance of strategy and intent in promotional endeavors. Today, business owners in Vancouver and beyond reflect on that day when the line between marketing and mayhem was tested. The challenge for future initiatives remains to innovate while ensuring that the experiences they create resonate positively with their audience. The story of the Vancouver kidnapping stunt continues to serve as a beacon for ethical considerations in marketing, reminding all creatives that the best ideas are often those that inspire joy and connection rather than fear and confusion. And as marketing evolves with technology and changing societal norms, the key takeaway from this incident remains: authenticity and empathy must be at the forefront of any promotional effort. As we look to the future, may we remember the lessons learned from past events and strive to create experiences that not only capture attention, but also foster understanding and engagement in our communities. In the spring of 1983, the Netherlands became gripped by one of the most notorious criminal cases in its history, the kidnapping of Freddy Heineken, the heir to the Heineken beer empire. Freddy Heineken was not just a successful businessman. He was an iconic figure in Dutch culture, synonymous with premium beer and a global brand that carried the name of his ancestors. Born on November 4, 1923, Heineken took over the family business and transformed it, making it one of the most recognizable beer brands in the world. However, His prominence also made him an appealing target for criminals. On the evening of November 9, 1983, as he was leaving the Heineken headquarters in Amsterdam, Freddy Heineken and his driver, a flat dotterer, were ambushed. They were approached by armed men who forced them into a vehicle at gunpoint. This marked the beginning of a harrowing ordeal that would grab the attention of the Dutch nation and beyond. The kidnappers, who were later identified as a group of criminals led by a man named Cor van Hout, had a bold plan. They sought to capitalize on Heineken's wealth and influence by demanding a ransom for his safe return. The initial complexity of the situation revolved around negotiating the ransom amount, which was set at an astounding 35 million Dutch guilders, a figure that represented not just money, but also the value and status associated with the Heineken name. The Dutch police were immediately alerted to the situation, and a massive manhunt began for Heineken and his driver. Special units were dispatched, and the media quickly caught wind of the story. As news spread, the case took on an air of urgency, with the public becoming increasingly invested in the fate of the two men. The police faced various challenges, including the need to protect Heineken, while also attempting to track down the kidnappers, without attracting too much attention. Throughout it all, Freddy Heineken remained calm and composed, displaying a remarkable level of resilience in the face of danger. As the hours turned into days, the kidnappers maintained communications with Heineken's family, making it clear that they were serious about their demands. The Heineken family and law enforcement worked together, grappling with the ethical and practical dilemmas of acceding to the kidnappers' demands. It was a delicate balancing act, both concerned with ensuring the men's safety while also trying to bring the crisis to a swift resolution. The emotional tension mounted not just for the families of the hostages, but also for the broader public. Every development was covered in the news, and many people were captivated by the ongoing saga. The story highlighted not just the enormous wealth of the Heineken brand, but also the vulnerabilities that come with fame and power. In a dramatic turn of events, after 3 weeks in captivity, Heineken and Dotterer were finally released. As part of the ransom negotiations, a clandestine meeting was set up to hand over the money in exchange for their freedom. The exchange occurred in a remote location, and the successful transfer of funds led to the release of the two men. Heineken's return was met with relief and jubilation from his family and the public alike. However, the end of the ordeal was just the beginning of a different investigation. The Dutch authorities launched an extensive manhunt, aiming to capture the kidnappers who had orchestrated such a brazen crime. Using forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and tips from the public, police quickly began piecing together the identities and whereabouts of the kidnappers. Cor van Hout, the mastermind behind the kidnapping, and his accomplices were ultimately tracked down. As they delved deeper into the investigation, authorities discovered that the kidnapping had been meticulously planned. There were various inquiries into how the gang had managed to surveil Heineken and develop a strategy to capture him. They had waited for the right moment and taken advantage of an all-too-brief lapse in security. The trials that followed captivated the nation as well. Their hearings were filled with tension, drama, and emotional testimonies from Heineken himself. He recounted his experiences in captivity, shedding light on the mental and physical challenges he and Dotterer faced in those weeks of uncertainty. The courtroom became a battleground of legal maneuvering, highlighting the complexities of criminal justice in high-profile cases. As the convictions were handed down to the kidnappers, the case prompted broader discussions about crime, wealth, and security in the Netherlands. After all, this event not only put a spotlight on the vulnerabilities of successful individuals, but also made people contemplate the implications of wealth in a society where crime can lurk in the shadows. The relationship between the affluent and their communities came under scrutiny. People began to question how businesses and individuals could better protect themselves from similar threats. The Freddy Heineken kidnapping case left a lasting imprint on the Netherlands. It became emblematic of the intersection between crime and celebrity, a situation where the stakes are incredibly high and the consequences ripple through society at large. Following the ordeal, Heineken himself became a more private figure, although he continued to be actively involved in the company. The incident influenced security protocols in the business world, pushing organizations to take possible threats more seriously and assess their vulnerabilities. Years later, the impact of this case can still be felt. It has been documented in books, articles, and even a feature film that explored the intricacies of the kidnapping and the larger societal implications. The Heineken name is still globally recognized, and the legacy of the kidnapping is woven into the fabric of Dutch history. Freddy Heineken lived on, continuing to influence the beer industry until his passing in 2002. His life and the kidnapping are often revisited as a case study in the complex dynamics of fame, wealth, and crime. The questions it raised about safety and the lengths individuals will go to secure their interests continue to inspire and warn future generations. As we reflect on this moment in history, it serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between success and security, and how in moments of crisis, resilience and hope shine through the darkness. The story of Freddy Heineken will forever remain a compelling chapter in the narrative of the Netherlands, symbolizing both vulnerability and the triumph of the human spirit in the face of adversity. The Whittlesea Kidnapping is a fascinating episode in the annals of early 19th century England, a tale that encompasses the themes of crime, social class, and the dramatic impacts of ransom demands. Occurring in the small village of Whittlesea, located in Cambridgeshire, this incident is a reflection of a society grappling with changes brought about by the Industrial Revolution and a shifting landscape in social dynamics. To set the stage for this intriguing story, let's first understand the context of early 19th century England. The country was undergoing significant transformations. Urban areas were expanding rapidly, new technologies were emerging, and class structures were in flux. Wealth was becoming increasingly concentrated, and social tensions were rising. In this environment, the kidnapping of a well-to-do individual could catch the public's attention and stir debate regarding morality and criminality. In the summer of 1824, a notorious kidnapping took place that would not only shock the locals, but would also make headlines throughout the nation. The victim was a prominent local figure, a wealthy landowner who had garnered respect and admiration in the surrounding community. His status made him an ideal target for criminals looking to profit from his capture, and the subsequent events would unfold like a dramatic novel. The day had started routinely, with the landowner going about his business, oblivious to the dark plots that were brewing around him. His daily routine involved visits to his estate, meetings with laborers, and discussions with tenants who relied on his land. On this particular day, as he returned home, he was intercepted by a group of masked men who swiftly abducted him, taking him away in a carriage before anyone could react. News of the kidnapping spread quickly, causing panic among locals. The community, stunned by the audacity of the crime, began to organize search parties and spread the word, hoping that a rescue would be swift. But as hours turned into days, the fear and uncertainty began to weigh heavily on the people's hearts and minds. Days after the abduction, the kidnappers reached out to the family of the landowner with their demands. They proposed a substantial ransom, a sum that reflected both the victim's wealth and the audacity of the crime. The kidnappers presented their ultimatum with chilling precision: pay the ransom or face dire consequences. This message struck fear into not only the family of the victim but the entire community, raising questions about justice and morality. The demands created a ripple effect throughout the village, as townsfolk grappled with the implications of the crime. Discussions raged in homes and pubs, where people debated what the family should do. Some believed paying the ransom would only encourage more crime, while others argued that it was the only way to ensure the landowner's safety. The dilemma underscored the very nature of decisions made in times of crisis, revealing the vulnerability that wealth can sometimes bring. In the days that followed, the family secretly worked with local authorities, who were desperate to track down the kidnappers and bring the landowner back safely. They collected information, followed leads, and scoured the countryside, hoping to find any trace that would lead them to the criminals. As tension mounted, the community held its breath, hoping for a resolution that would not only save a life, but restore a sense of security to their lives. The kidnappers, however, were clever and savvy. They used a network of contacts and carefully planned their moves to evade capture, creating a game of cat and mouse. They shifted locations frequently, avoiding detection while maintaining contact with the family. At each turn, they emphasized the seriousness of their demands, further manipulating the situation. The final resolution of this kidnapping saga came after an exhaustive search and negotiation process. In a dramatic turn, the authorities finally pieced together enough information to pinpoint the whereabouts of the landowner. A carefully coordinated operation was launched to rescue him from captivity, aiming to free him without alerting the kidnappers to their presence. On the day of the rescue, a tense atmosphere enveloped everyone involved. The authorities, prepared for confrontation, executed their plan with precision. Armed with a determination to bring the ordeal to an end and save the landowner, they reached the hideout of the kidnappers, never knowing what challenges awaited them. When the dust settled, the rescue was deemed a success, and the landowner was returned to safety. However, the event left an indelible mark on the community, and marked a significant episode in local history. It sparked conversations about justice, the complexities of criminal activities, and the societal responses to crime. People began to reflect on the tensions between wealth and vulnerability, and how this incident might change the way they viewed their own safety and agency within the community. The aftermath of the Whittlesea Kidnapping did not fade quietly into history. Instead, it ignited discussions and debates about law enforcement and the effectiveness of the justice system. People speculated on the consequences for the criminals and what their capture would mean for the larger issue of crime in England at the time. Furthermore, the case illuminated the sometimes tumultuous relationship between citizens and law enforcement. It served as a catalyst for the community to press for better protection against crime, leading to increased vigilance and collaboration between villagers and local authorities. In a time when social dynamics were shifting, it made the populace acutely aware of their own safety and how a collective response could help deter future incidents. As years went by, memories of the kidnapping gradually became stories shared by the older generation, standing testament to an unsettling chapter in the village's history. The Whittlesea Kidnapping evolved into a cautionary tale, reminding residents of the vulnerabilities that existed even within seemingly idyllic rural life. The incident was woven into the fabric of community folklore, as families passed down stories that warned about the unpredictable nature of wealth and the ever-present dangers lurking in the shadows. In modern times, the Whittlesea Kidnapping serves as a captivating historical study of crime in early 19th century England. Historians and enthusiasts alike delve into the intricacies of the event, examining it through lenses of social change, crime, and the responses that shaped communities. The complexities of human behavior, the motives behind criminal acts, and the societal challenges that ensue remain relevant themes as we continue to grapple with questions of morality, safety, and justice. In conclusion, the Whittlesea Kidnapping stands as a compelling narrative that encapsulates the spirit of its era. It reflects a tumultuous time in which crime challenged societal norms and forced communities to confront their values and vulnerabilities. As we look back on this intriguing episode, we recognize the profound effects such incidents can have on both individuals and communities, shaping their responses to crime and influencing their sense of safety for generations to come. The legacy of this kidnapping, embedded in the history of Whittlesea, reminds us that the past can echo into the present, providing lessons on human nature, community resilience, and the ongoing quest for justice. Shasta Groene's story is one of resilience, bravery, and an incredible will to survive. In May 2005, life for Shasta and her family took a horrifying turn when they were attacked in their home in Idaho. At just 8 years old, Shasta was thrust into an unimaginable situation that no child should ever have to face. Her life, at that moment, was transformed forever. The events were chilling. A man named Joseph Duncan broke into Shasta's home, where she lived with her mother, stepfather, and 2 siblings, Colleen and Dylan. That fateful night, Duncan committed a brutal crime that shook the community to its core. In the following chaos, Shasta was kidnapped, while her family faced a tragic outcome. The entire community was gripped with fear and confusion, hoping for answers and the safe return of the little girl. Shasta spent 11 harrowing days in captivity, during which she endured unspeakable hardships. The situation was dire, but Shasta's spirit proved unyielding. She managed to survive those long days by clinging to the hope of rescue and demonstrating remarkable courage. Throughout this terrifying experience, she found ways to be resourceful and resilient. Shasta's young age belied her strength as she navigated the horrors presented by her abductor. During this time, Shasta encountered Duncan repeatedly, and she exhibited great wisdom beyond her years. She learned to blend in and follow his instructions, which sometimes meant the difference between life and death. Shasta even met other missing children during her captivity, demonstrating a level of empathy that is astounding for someone so young. She did her best to protect herself while holding on to the innocence of childhood as much as possible. The breakthrough came when Duncan and Shasta were discovered in a remote cabin in a national forest. A conscientious passerby noticed the unusual sight of Duncan and Shasta, and the police were promptly contacted. This moment marked a pivotal turn in Shasta's life and the ongoing search for closure regarding her family. Shasta's bravery throughout the ordeal was not just instinctive survival. It became a crucial element in piecing together what had happened to her family. Immediately after her rescue, Shasta displayed tremendous strength in recounting the harrowing events to law enforcement. Her detailed accounts helped investigators uncover the tragic fate of her family, leading to the recovery of her siblings and a deeper understanding of Duncan's heinous acts. Shasta became instrumental in building the case against her captor, shedding light on his crimes that extended far beyond her own experience. Joseph Duncan was subsequently apprehended, and his actions faced legal consequences. His horrific deeds had far-reaching effects, but Shasta emerged from this nightmare to share her story, showcasing her remarkable journey from victimhood to survival and empowerment. Shasta's experience was not without its share of challenges. As she returned to everyday life, the emotional scars remained. Humanity's resilience in the face of adversity is remarkable, and Shasta's story is a pillar of this truth. She had to navigate the complexities of her trauma, while also attempting to reclaim her childhood. Through therapy and support, Shasta moved toward healing, though the journey is ongoing. Years later, Shasta continues to use her experience to help others. She speaks publicly about her abduction and the importance of resilience, sharing her message with impacted communities. Her courage touches hearts and instills a sense of hope for those who face adversity. Shasta Groene's survival story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, an illuminating example that shines brightly, even in the darkest of circumstances. With her rare combination of innocence and fortitude, Shasta has inspired individuals far and wide. From her harrowing beginning to her current mission of advocacy, she embodies the essence of survival. Life continues to present challenges, but Shasta demonstrates that the human spirit can endure and bounce back even from the most unfathomable experiences. Beyond her individual journey, Shasta's story reflects broader themes of bravery and the importance of community support. It highlights how, in times of crisis, collective actions can lead to monumental change. Organizations that focus on child abduction prevention, for example, take inspiration from survivors like Shasta, helping to educate families and raise awareness about safety measures. Shasta Groene's story is not just about the darkness she faced, it is also about the light that shines from her resilience. Through her experiences, she has become an advocate for those who cannot speak for themselves, lending her voice to the voiceless and instilling hope in those who may feel lost. In her journey to reclaim her life, Shasta embodies the triumph of the spirit over adversity, showing that survival is a powerful narrative that can be retold in various ways. From being a victim of a crime to taking an active role in helping others, her evolution is nothing short of inspiring. Community support plays a significant role in recovery. In Shasta's case, she was surrounded by individuals who believed in her strength. Families and communities often rally around victims, offering love and support that are crucial for healing. Shasta's journey exemplifies how kindness from strangers and support from loved ones can make a lasting impact on a survivor's path. Shasta's courage transcends her own experiences. It also serves as a catalyst for others. She possesses the ability to inspire conversations about safety measures and the importance of being vigilant and protecting children. With every story shared, she helps foster a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding abduction and trauma. Through her public speaking engagements, Shasta raises awareness about the signs of danger and the importance of listening to children. Her message resonates widely, reminding parents and guardians to remain vigilant and proactive in ensuring the safety of their loved ones. Today, Shasta speaks not only to remember her tragic past, but to empower others. She emphasizes the value of community solidarity and highlights how, when people come together, they can combat serious issues like abduction. In her advocacy, she exemplifies that, from the ashes of trauma, can rise a force of strength and inspiration. Shasta Groene's life story reminds us all of the fragile balance of safety in the world we live in. Though her journey began with horror, she has taken her experiences and turned them into something powerful. Awareness and education serve as her tools in reaching out to others who may find themselves threatened, making the narrative of her life one of empowerment rather than merely survival. In sharing her story, Shasta continues to champion for children everywhere, urging society to protect the innocent. She symbolizes the strength found within vulnerability, inspiring others to rise above their challenges. Shasta Groene has transformed from a survivor of unspeakable events into a courageous advocate, embodying hope, resilience, and the truly limitless potential of the human spirit. The Chowchilla Kidnapping of 1976 remains one of the most chilling events in American history. It involved a school bus filled with children and their driver, all of whom faced an unimaginable ordeal that has since become a part of the fabric of survival stories. The narrative begins on July 15th, a sunny day in Chowchilla, California. Around 26 children ages 5 to 14 boarded their yellow school bus for a field trip to a nearby water park. Little did they know that their day would turn into a fight for survival that would haunt them for years to come. As the bus made its way back, it was suddenly stopped by a vehicle blocking the road. Two armed men forced the bus driver, Ed Ray, to obey their commands. As the children sat in confusion and fear, the men collected everyone and took them to an underground bunker, a horrifying location with no light, escape routes, or means of communication. The situation was bleak, yet it was there, in the darkness, that resilience showed its face. The atmosphere inside the bunker was suffocating. Panic and fear dominated the minds of the young children, but Ed Ray's calm demeanor soon became a source of comfort. He took it upon himself to reassure the children, telling them tales of heroes and adventures. It was vital for them to maintain hope. In an environment that contained only agony, Ray turned his eyes towards the light he promised to find, even in the darkest moments. As time passed, and the hours turned into a long night, the bunker became a breeding ground for creativity and courage. The children began to engage in small group activities, collaborating to tell stories, sing songs, or play games. They shared memories of their families, favorite cartoons, or even fun schoolyard moments. In remembering their happiest times, they created an invisible thread connecting them back to their lives outside of that confined space. One particular survivor, a girl named Teresa, fondly remembered the smell of her mother's homemade cookies and the warmth of her hug. She shared this memory with some of her peers, who based their own stories on the same theme of love and security. Conversations about their favorite meals or games turned into a lifeline. They were no longer just kidnapped children. They were friends, united against a common threat. But desperation set in as soon as the realization of their captivity sank in. The visibility of their situation started to weigh heavily on them. Although they tried to keep spirits high, fear of the unknown loomed. The children faced hunger and fatigue. Their bodies craved the comfort of home, and the reality of their parents realizing the situation felt unbearable. Conversations about potential rescues bridged the gap between despair and hope. Meanwhile, outside the bunker, the families and the community were in an uproar. The bus was reported missing, and a massive search began. Law enforcement began canvassing the neighborhoods, questioning anyone who might offer clues. The media covered the story extensively, bringing national attention to the plight of the children. Their stories resonated widely. People everywhere prayed for their safe return. After nearly 16 hours trapped underground, the children began to believe it might be another ordinary day, with no exit in sight. But the combined will to fight for freedom collectively manifested. With their unbreakable spirit and Ed Ray's leadership, they devised a plan. Working together, they began attempting to escape, even though their options were limited. It was decided that they had to dig their way out of that prison by working cautiously and quietly. Using their hands, they started to dig through the dirt walls, rationalizing that it would be better than waiting for rescue that might never come. Days stretched into what felt like weeks, yet hope remained alive. They channeled their dream of freedom, thinking of sunshine warming their skin, the grass under their feet, and the sound of laughter with friends. This visualization served as motivation, an anchor in a storm. Finally, on July 17th, after a relentless push to dig a hole big enough to crawl through, they discovered a chance for escape. Thanks to their collaboration, Ed Ray and the children finally broke free from the confines of the underground lair. The emergence into the daylight was as surreal as the entrapment had been. The world beyond was vast, beautiful, and full of possibilities, yet also laced with uncertainty. They were not out of danger yet. Navigating the unfamiliar territory became the next challenge. All eyes were peeled for any signs of their captors. However, a child named Jamie, who earlier took charge during the dig, suddenly spotted a faint shimmer in the distance. With collective determination, they moved towards that sparkle. What appeared was a field, brimming with long grass and bright wildflowers, and at the edge of this meadow the promise of rescue, a vehicle parked on the road. Upon reaching the road, the children waved at passing cars, trying to get the attention of the first person who would see them. Eventually, a driver stopped, and the sight of that familiar yellow school bus, the symbol of their previous lives, surged back into their memories. They frantically relayed their story, recounting the past 2 harrowing days and the treachery they had endured. Throughout the ordeal, There were many stories from each survivor that intertwined with the others. Each unique narrative complemented the larger story of resilience and companionship. Some of the children retained that glimmer of hope showcased in their determined spirit. They learned the art of survival, not merely for themselves, but for each other, creating a tapestry of strength, courage, and friendship. The aftermath of such an event is often profound. The Chowchilla survivors carried their individual experiences into adulthood, living through dreams that sometimes turned into nightmares. The trauma left emotional scars, yet their stories of survival formed an unbreakable bond among them. Each child grew into their own journey of healing, some opting to share their experiences to educate others about resilience and strength in the face of adversity. As years passed, the survivors became advocates for children's safety and mental health. They participated in discussions around coping mechanisms, the power of community support, and the significance of believing in brighter tomorrows. They shared their experiences at schools, community events, and mental health workshops, weaving their tales into a rich narrative that encouraged vulnerability, connection, and resilience. These tales from that fateful day serve as a testament to human endurance, showcasing the power of unity and hope. The children of Chowchilla emerged not just as survivors but as symbols of strength. Their harrowing ordeal is a reminder of the fragility of childhood and the importance of nurturing a safe community. Each of their stories contributes to a rich tapestry of humanity, showcasing the journey from fear into strength and the enduring power of hope amidst adversity. Their legacy continues to inspire and motivate, reminding us all to cherish each moment, support one another, and never take our freedom for granted. On a fateful day that would go down in history, an Ethiopian Airlines flight, Flight 961, captured the attention of the world with a dramatic hijacking that would result in a gripping rescue operation. It all began on November 23, 1996, when a Boeing 767 en route from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia to Nairobi, Kenya, was taken over by 3 armed hijackers. The aircraft had 175 passengers and crew members on board, all blissfully unaware of the danger that was about to ensue. As the flight was cruising over the Indian Ocean, the hijackers, motivated by political motives related to the Ethiopian political climate, seized control of the airplane. They brandished weapons and threatened the lives of everyone on board, pressing their demands for a diversion to Eritrea. Amid the chaos, passengers experienced a profound sense of fear and uncertainty, their safety now hanging in the balance. The crew acted quickly, trying to maintain control of the situation while adhering to the demands of the hijackers. However, it soon became evident that the circumstances were grave. The hijackers were determined, and they had orchestrated a plan that involved more than just demanding attention. Their actions escalated from taking control of the flight to holding the passengers as hostages, turning the airplane into a turbulent symbol of fear in the skies. As news of the hijacking reached authorities on the ground, a multi-agency response was initiated. The Ethiopian government scrambled to react to the crisis, coordinating with international agencies and seeking to find a resolution without further endangering the lives of those on the flight. Meanwhile, negotiations began as the clock ticked away, creating a tense atmosphere both inside the cockpit and among the hostages. On board, the passengers faced unimaginable challenges. They huddled together, grappling with their fears, holding on to hope while listening carefully to the unfolding dialogue between the hijackers and the authorities. Among the passengers were individuals from various walks of life, some traveling for business, others reuniting with family, and a few with tales of adventure. Their common bond now was the shared anxiety of their precarious situation. As days went by, the hijackers' demands evolved. They sought asylum in a country they believed would provide them protection, revealing the deeply rooted tensions and struggles present within Ethiopian society. The situation took on a more complex layer, as it became clear that this was not just an act of desperation, but also one steeped in a political narrative that many in the world were just beginning to understand. Meanwhile, authorities grappled with the dilemma of how to proceed. There were discussions of potential military interventions, but the fear of causing harm to innocent lives weighed heavily on the minds of decision-makers. How could they resolve the crisis without escalating violence? These deliberations became more intense as time progressed, with both urgency and caution guiding every move. In the midst of this turmoil, a team was formed to address the hostage situation. These negotiators had experience in crisis management, But this was unlike anything they had faced before. They employed a variety of techniques, from establishing rapport with the hijackers to emphasizing the human aspect of the situation. They reminded the hijackers that behind every demand stood real individuals deserving of compassion and safety. As tensions reached their peak, a brave plan began to take shape. The Ethiopian military worked selectively and strategically to prepare for an operation that would aim to rescue those aboard the flight safely. They studied the dynamics of the aircraft, the behavior of the hijackers, and the vulnerabilities of the aircraft itself. The stakes were high, as everyone understood that a poorly executed mission could result in catastrophic consequences. Meanwhile, hopes soared and fell in equal measure among the hostages. Moments of intense fear were often interrupted by camaraderie, connecting them to share stories that reminded them of their lives beyond the confines of the airplane. These moments of solidarity, laughter, and tears provided a glimmer of humanity amidst the looming threat, allowing them to bolster their spirits as they navigated the uncertainty together. As the proposed rescue operation was finalized, the plan was not without its risks. With some of the hijackers exhibiting erratic behavior, the authorities acknowledged that rapid action was necessary. The rescue mission would depend on elements of surprise and precision. Members of the elite Ethiopian military were tasked with the daring operation of storming the aircraft, while air traffic control skillfully guided the pilot for a potential escape. At the break of dawn on November 24, 1996, tension filled the air as the military executed their plan. They approached the aircraft as it landed on the tarmac in a remote area, their hearts racing in sync with the pulse of the unfolding situation. The world held its breath, anxiously awaiting the outcome, as every second felt like an eternity. With impeccable timing and collaboration, the military stormed the aircraft, leading to a stunning rescue that would chase away clouds of anxiety. The hijackers were subdued swiftly, with some apprehended, while others were met with resistance. The soldiers executed their mission with the utmost professionalism, ensuring the safety of the hostages above all else. Upon emerging from the harrowing experience, the passengers were met with a mixture of relief and disbelief. They had wrestled with their mortality just moments before, only to find themselves stepping out into a new world, a world that felt brighter yet more fragile. Embraced by military personnel and loved ones, they took their first breaths of freedom, filled with gratitude for their new lease on life. The aftermath of the hijacking ignited conversations around aviation security measures and the psychological impact on the passengers. Many would recount their stories for years to come. They became living testaments to resilience and the unbreakable nature of the human spirit when faced with adversity. The airplane ride that had begun as a simple journey turned into a profound narrative that highlighted the complexities of fear, hope, and survival. As time passed, Flight 961 would become a case study, not merely for the hijacking itself, but also for the incredible display of human resolve that followed. Those on board, the rescuers, and those monitoring the crisis from afar remained intertwined within a narrative of compassion and bravery. Ultimately, the story of the Ethiopian plane hijacking became a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the strength that often lies dormant within individuals. It reinforced the idea that heroes do not always wear capes. Sometimes, they emerge from moments of crisis, displaying extraordinary courage in the face of the unimaginable. Aristotle Onassis, one of the wealthiest and most famous shipping magnates of the 20th century, led a life filled with both glamour and controversy. Born in 1906 in Turkey, he moved to Argentina after fleeing the Greco-Turkish War, where he built his fortune in the shipping industry. By the 1960s, Onassis became a symbol of wealth and success, but with such notoriety came various risks, including rumored kidnapping plots. During the 1960s, the world was captivated by the glamorous lifestyle led by Onassis. He was not only known for his business acumen, but also for his high-profile marriages, most notably to Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, the widow of the former U.S. President John F. Kennedy. The spotlight on his life made him a target of not just admiration, but envy and potential criminal schemes. Rumors regarding kidnapping plots against Onassis and his family circulated widely during this time. These plots were often fueled by sensationalist media coverage as well as the cultural environment of the era, which was marked by political instability and the rise of organized crime in various parts of the world. The idea that a figure as prominent as Onassis could be kidnapped for ransom or coercive purposes sparked the imagination of many. One particular incident that stands out occurred in 1968 when a supposed plan to kidnap Onassis' daughter Christina surfaced. Christina was often in the public eye, drawing attention not only for her father's fame, but also for her own vibrant lifestyle. The presence of a young heiress in the midst of such wealth made her an attractive prospect for potential kidnappers. Security measures increased significantly as a result, and the family reportedly engaged various private security firms to evaluate potential threats. There were claims that various criminal organizations, both local and international, were interested in targeting Onassis for financial gain, hoping to demand ransom in exchange for the safe return of his loved ones. Given his immense wealth, it was easy to understand why kidnappers would view him as a lucrative target. He had established himself as a titan in the shipping industry, and his assets were thought to be worth millions. The myths and stories surrounding Onassis did not only focus on threatening events, but also on his larger-than-life persona. Tales of his early struggles, savvy business deals, and extravagant purchases contributed to his image. The combination of being a self-made millionaire and a high-society figure made Onassis a fascinating character, and it was only natural that rumors of darker plots would emerge in the public's imagination. Additionally, the political climate of the time added layers to the story, as tensions in various countries sometimes led to more extreme actions from opportunistic groups. International relations, especially in relation to Greece and Turkey, where Onassis had significant ties, were also contributing factors in the narrative surrounding his life and the threats he faced. The yacht Christina O, which was synonymous with luxury, was often the backdrop against which some of these rumored plots unfolded. The yacht was more than a means of luxury travel. It was a social hub for celebrities and political figures alike. Reports suggested that this very yacht had become a target for hijackers because of its intrinsic connection to Onassis, as well as its accessibility in international waters. It was said that this glamorous vessel, often hosting elaborate parties, drew unwanted attention that could lead to dangerous scenarios. Despite these whispered threats, Onassis navigated the waters of fame and fortune with a shrewdness that many admired. He maintained a facade of confidence and control, managing his business dealings with a tight grip while constantly ensuring the safety of his family. The alleged plots against him became a part of his mystique. He was a man who thrived under pressure, adding to his legend. In examining this fascinating yet precarious time in Onassis' life, we come across a tapestry woven with ambition, power, and the ever-looming threat of danger that often accompanies great wealth. The rumors of kidnapping plots serve to create an image of intrigue and vulnerability for a man who was otherwise perceived as untouchable. The line between truth and fiction can often become blurred in high-stakes narratives like those surrounding Onassis. What remained uncontested was the incredible draw of his story, an exploration of how wealth and fame can attract both admiration and peril. The tales of kidnapping rumors against Aristotle Onassis served to amplify his already impressive legacy, placing him firmly in the annals of history not just as a businessman, but as a figure enveloped in the drama of his times. As the years went by, the threats associated with Onassis' life began to fade alongside his public presence. He continued to navigate the ups and downs of life, transforming his narrative into one that told of resilience and adaptability. The specter of possible kidnappings became just one chapter in the many stories that painted the portrait of a man who lived at the intersection of aspiration and reality. In retrospect, the stories of kidnapping plots against Aristotle Onassis remind us how intertwined human ambition and danger can be. The sensational notions surrounding the threats he faced serve as a metaphor for the complexities of fame. Ultimately, his life was a vivid demonstration of how those who soar to remarkable heights must also contend with the shadows that trail behind them. Lina Medina is a name that resonates with extraordinary circumstances, one steeped in both medical history and personal tragedy. Born on September 23, 1933, in a small Peruvian village called Ticrapo, Lima, Lina's life took an unexpected turn at a very young age. What makes her story particularly remarkable is not merely the rarity of her medical condition, but also the harrowing experiences she endured throughout her early life. At just 5 years old, Lina was taken to a doctor by her family complaining of abdominal pain. It turned out that she was pregnant. This rare phenomenon, known as precocious puberty, is extremely uncommon and involves the onset of sexual maturity at an unusually early age. Lina's case captured the attention of the medical community, as she exhibited signs of menstruation at an age that most children are still playing with dolls. This led to speculation and intrigue around her condition, but it also overshadowed the personal aspects of her life. As if her early pregnancy and the subsequent media attention were not enough, Lina's life took another dramatic turn when she became the victim of a shocking kidnapping. The details of this event are deeply unsettling. The kidnapping was not just a random act. It was based on a sordid belief that her case and unique condition offered an opportunity for exploitation. The perpetrators were driven by a mixture of fame and the desire to exploit Lina's story for their own benefit. Despite the challenges, Lina exhibited remarkable resilience. Her situation elicited responses from authorities and ordinary people alike who were horrified at the implications of her kidnapping. A widespread search ensued, showcasing the community's commitment to ensuring her safe return. It became clear that Lina was not just seen as a case, but as a young girl deserving of protection and care. The story of her abduction struck a chord with many, highlighting the urgent need for vigilance regarding the safety of children. Eventually, the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the community led to Lina's safe return. This chapter of her life, like many in her early years, was marked by not just tragedy, but also an overwhelming sense of solidarity from those who rallied to support her. People from various walks of life drew attention to her case, advocating for greater awareness and protection for vulnerable children. After being rescued, Lina faced societal scrutiny and the challenges that came with her unusual medical condition. People often projected their fears and misconceptions onto her, failing to see her as an individual with her own hopes and dreams. The attention she received was often sensationalized, leaving little room for her personal narrative to unfold in a way that acknowledged her humanity. Throughout her life, she carried the weight of her early experiences, which shaped her identity and personal relationships. As Lina grew older, she sought to lead a normal life amidst the chaos that had followed her from childhood. She became a mother in her own right. Her determination to not allow her past to define her was evident in the choices she made and the life she created for herself. She served as a reminder that every individual, regardless of their circumstances, has the capacity to overcome adversities and redefine their narrative. The story of Lina Medina also raises questions about society's responsibility towards vulnerable individuals. It sheds light on the broader issues surrounding child safety and the need for protective measures against exploitation. Each person who becomes aware of Lina's history can contribute to creating protective environments for children, ensuring that no one else has to endure what she did. In the years following her emergence in the public eye, Lina became somewhat of a symbol. Advocates for children's rights often referenced her case as they worked towards legislative changes and community awareness programs. Recognizing the signs of abuse, neglect, and exploitation becomes essential in safeguarding young individuals. Lina's experience serves as a powerful illustration of the world's need to focus on the safety of its most vulnerable members. Lina Medina's life story is a compelling narrative of resilience in the face of adversity. From her startling medical condition to the trials she faced during her young life, she emerged not only as a subject of medical curiosity, but also as a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Her journey compels us to reflect on the delicate nature of childhood and the responsibilities we each hold towards protecting the innocence and safety of every young person. Through her experiences, we see the profound impact that compassion, community, and advocacy can have in changing the course of an individual's life. It serves as a reminder that behind every story involving tragedy or unprecedented circumstances lies a human being worthy of dignity and respect. The legacy of Lina Medina goes beyond the confines of her extraordinary case. It pushes us towards a greater understanding of vulnerability, resilience, and the innate strength that each of us can find even in the darkest of times. Her life story continues to inspire ongoing dialogues about children's rights and the need for awareness, compassion, and action in ensuring the safety of vulnerable populations. In conclusion, while Lina Medina's early life was marked by trauma and upheaval, her journey has ultimately become one of empowerment and hope. It encourages us to expand our understanding of challenges and triumphs, urging society to foster an environment where innocence can thrive, free from harm or exploitation. Each of us can contribute to that unfolding narrative of kindness, support, and respect in our communities, making room for stories of resilience to emerge from the shadows of adversity. In December 1996, a gripping hostage crisis unfolded at the Japanese embassy in Lima, Peru, capturing the attention of the world. This incident was primarily orchestrated by a guerrilla group known as the Movimiento Revolucionario Tupac Amaru, or MRTA. This organization, established in the early 1980s, aimed to establish a Marxist state in Peru and sought to overthrow the Peruvian government through violent means. The group was known for its extreme tactics, and this incident marked one of their most high-profile operations. The crisis began on December 17th, when a group of around 14 MRTA members stormed the Japanese embassy during a party celebrating the birthday of Emperor Akihito. The attackers took approximately 22 hostages, including prominent figures from the Japanese community and Peruvian officials. The elegant embassy, which had become a symbol of Japan's diplomatic presence in Peru, quickly transformed into a site of tension and fear. As the situation unfolded, the global community watched closely. The Peruvian government found itself in a precarious position. The hostages were not only Japanese citizens, but also represented important political and economic ties between Peru and Japan. The hostages included businessmen, diplomats, and even the Japanese ambassador, Yasuhiro Nakasone. The crisis attracted media attention and became a topic of discussion not only in Peru, but around the world. Negotiations began almost immediately. The Peruvian government, under President Alberto Fujimori, faced a dilemma. On one hand, they wanted to secure the safe release of the hostages, but on the other hand, they did not want to show weakness by conceding to the demands of the MRTA. The guerrilla group had several demands, including the release of their imprisoned comrades and a safe passage out of Peru. The talks were tense and fraught with challenges, as time passed and no resolution appeared imminent. As the standoff continued for weeks, the psychological toll on both the hostages and their families grew increasingly evident. Inside the embassy, the hostages faced uncertainty and fear, while their loved ones outside anxiously awaited news of their fate. Reports emerged of the hostages providing each other with support, working to maintain morale in the face of adversity. They were determined to stay hopeful, even as the days turned into weeks. The situation was complicated further by the tactics employed by the Peruvian government. Fujimori's administration was determined to take a hardline approach against terrorism, which included the possibility of military intervention. The government sought to establish a strategy that would combine negotiation with potential rescue efforts. This dual approach highlighted the complexities of dealing with extremist groups, as the line between diplomacy and force became increasingly blurred. On April 22, 1997, after a 126-day tense standoff, the crisis reached a climax when the Peruvian military launched a daring rescue operation known as Operation Chavín de Huántar. The operation was executed with precision. Commandos stormed the embassy, catching the hostage-takers by surprise. Remarkably, all but one of the hostages were safely rescued, and all 14 MRTA members were killed during the operation. The aftermath of the crisis was significant for both Peru and Japan. The successful rescue operation was seen as a triumph of Peruvian military strength and strategy, reinforcing the government's position against terrorism. However, it also led to debates about the ethics of using military force in hostage situations. The successful conclusion bolstered President Fujimori's administration, though questions remained about the larger context of addressing the fundamental issues related to terrorism in Peru. For Japan, the crisis heightened awareness about the dangers of international diplomacy in volatile regions. It strengthened Japan's resolve to engage with international counterterrorism efforts. The incident also brought to light the vulnerability of diplomatic missions, leading to enhanced security measures at embassies worldwide. Today, the legacy of the Japanese embassy hostage crisis serves as a reminder of the complexities of terrorism and negotiation. It is a pivotal moment in modern Peruvian history that highlighted the challenges faced by governments in ensuring public safety while also addressing broader social issues. The event is studied in military and diplomatic circles, with important lessons learned about crisis management and the impact of ideological extremism. In addition to its immediate ramifications, the crisis influenced subsequent policies concerning counterterrorism, especially in the context of Latin America. The engagement with international allies became crucial, fostering cooperation among nations to address shared concerns regarding terrorism. It also sparked a cultural memory among the people of Peru and Japan, marking a time of tension, resilience, and ultimately, survival. In conclusion, the Japanese embassy hostage crisis remains a significant event in both Peruvian and Japanese history. It illustrates the complexities of human conflict and negotiation, shedding light on the broader implications of terrorism in society. The resolve of the hostages, the decisions made by government leaders, and the bravery of military personnel all intertwined to create a narrative that resonates beyond the events of 1996. This crisis serves as a reminder of the human spirit's capacity for endurance and the profound impacts of political and ideological struggles on ordinary lives. The Sally Horner case is a tragic story that has inspired discussions in literature, psychology, and law enforcement. It revolves around a young girl named Sally Horner, who, in the summer of 1948, became the victim of a disturbing crime that would have a lasting impact on society. Sally was only 11 years old when she was kidnapped in Camden, New Jersey. Her abductor, Franklin L. Ritchie, was a 50-year-old man who portrayed himself as an FBI agent. This deception proved to be a critical aspect of the case, as Ritchie used the guise of authority to manipulate and control Sally. He falsely claimed that she was in trouble for stealing a composition book from a local store and convinced her that she needed to accompany him to avoid being arrested. The interaction between Sally and Ritchie highlights the vulnerabilities children face when they encounter authority figures. Sally, frightened and confused, believed Ritchie's story, which ultimately led her into a horrific ordeal. This case serves as a reminder of the importance of educating young children about personal safety, the nature of authority, and the significance of trusting their instincts in uncomfortable situations. Over the course of 21 months, Sally endured a nightmare that no child should ever have to experience. Ritchie took her across multiple states, during which time he subjected her to abuse and isolation. It is hard to comprehend the level of fear and confusion Sally felt during this period. The situation escalated until Sally was able to escape from Ritchie in 1950, leading to his capture. However, the trauma she experienced would have lasting effects that would shape her life. The impact of the Sally Horner case extended beyond the individual tragedy. It caught the attention of the public and was reported in newspapers across the country. This case exemplified the darker realities of society and the potential dangers that children face. It also emphasized the need for better protective measures and communication regarding the safety of children in communities. One of the more curious aspects of the Sally Horner case is its connection to literature. Renowned author Vladimir Nabokov is believed to have drawn inspiration from Sally's story when crafting his famous novel, Lolita. Although the themes in Lolita touch upon complex and often troubling subjects, it is apparent that Nabokov's portrayal of obsession and manipulation echoes the chilling dynamics witnessed in Sally's abduction. Nabokov was known for his intricate storytelling and deep character exploration, and it is thought that Sally's story resonated with him as he sought to highlight the nature of exploitation. The narrative of Sally Horner serves as a haunting backdrop that challenges readers to grapple with ethical and moral dilemmas surrounding innocence, power, and the repercussions of abuse. The influence of the Sally Horner case can also be seen in broader cultural discussions. It has sparked conversations about how society perceives the defenses available to children and the obligations of adults. It has prompted organizations and communities to assess their roles in protecting children, ensuring that they are equipped with knowledge and tools necessary to navigate a complex world safely. In light of the shortcomings that surfaced during the investigation and subsequent trial of Ritchie, many scholars and activists push for reforms that directly address child safety. They advocate for awareness campaigns, educational programs, and stricter laws aimed at preventing such abductions and supporting survivors. As society reflects on the lessons learned from the case, it is crucial to keep the memory of Sally Horner alive. Her experience, often shrouded in tragedy, also serves as a catalyst for change. By acknowledging her story, we honor those who have suffered in silence and advocate for a world where children can thrive free from fear. In discussing the Sally Horner case and its far-reaching implications, one must consider the narrative not only as a historical account, but as a catalyst for vigilance and activism. Reflecting on her story encourages a dialogue surrounding child safety, the importance of education, and the necessity for community involvement. The legacy of Sally Horner is intertwined with discussions of human rights, children's welfare, and the profound effects of trauma. Her experience sheds light on societal responsibilities and the collective actions necessary to foster environments that promote safety and support. The psychological imprint of Sally's story extends beyond her lifetime, serving as both a cautionary tale and a call to action. It reminds us that even in the darkest circumstances, awareness and education can play vital roles in preventing further tragedies. As we navigate through various narratives of exploitation and manipulation, the echoes of Sally Horner's experience become a foundational aspect of such discussions. As more literature and studies draw from Sally's case, the focus shifts towards prevention rather than merely recounting the past. Initiatives led by educators and child advocates aim to empower children with knowledge about their boundaries and the right to seek help. The case of Sally Horner is not merely a story of survival, but also a grounding point for collective action moving forward. In conclusion, the case of Sally Horner serves as a reminder of the vulnerabilities faced by children in society. It urges us to create a safer world where children can grow and develop without fear. By sharing her story, discussing its implications, and advocating for critical reforms, we contribute to a forward movement that prioritizes the rights and protection of all children. Her legacy challenges us to reflect on our responsibilities and to ensure that no child endures the same fate again. The life of Sally Horner continues to resonate, urging us to listen, learn, and act for a brighter future. The Iran hostage crisis was a significant event that unfolded in the late 20th century, specifically from November 4, 1979, to January 20, 1981. This incident became a pivotal moment in U.S.-Iran relations and had lasting implications for American foreign policy. Understanding the backdrop of this crisis requires a look at the historical context, the key events, and the aftermath that shaped a generation. To begin, we must journey back to 1953, a year of political upheaval in Iran. The United States and the United Kingdom orchestrated a coup to oust Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, because he had sought to nationalize the Iranian oil industry. The U.S. supported the return of the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who ruled Iran with an iron fist and implemented numerous westernization programs that were met with dissent from various segments of Iranian society. The Shah's regime was characterized by repression, and the secret police, known as Savak, silenced political opposition. Fast forward to the late 1970s, dissatisfaction with the Shah grew among a coalition of leftist, nationalist, and Islamist groups. The Iranian Revolution culminated in 1979 when the Shah was forced into exile, and Ayatollah Khomeini, a prominent religious leader, returned to Iran from France. The revolution brought a dramatic shift in the nation's political and social structure, leading to the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran, grounded in a blend of religious and political doctrine that drastically altered the country's relationship with the West, particularly the United States. As the new Iranian government grappled with power and its legitimacy, tensions brewed between the United States and Iran. The U.S. had been a principal supporter of the ousted Shah, and many Iranians harbored deep resentment toward American interference in their country's affairs. This animosity grew when the Shah was allowed to enter the United States for medical treatment in October 1979. Fearing that his presence would signify U.S. support for the old regime, Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran on November 4, 1979. Some 52 American diplomats and citizens were taken hostage. This act of violence was emblematic of the struggle between revolutionaries seeking to assert their sovereignty and frustration over past U.S. interventions in Iranian affairs. The crisis escalated quickly, with images of American hostages being blindfolded and paraded before the cameras becoming synonymous with the events unfolding in Tehran. The hostage-takers demanded the extradition of the Shah to stand trial, as well as an apology from the U.S. for its past actions. The American government, under President Jimmy Carter, found itself in a challenging position. Efforts to negotiate the hostages' release were consistently thwarted, and public support for the crisis grew increasingly tense. The media coverage was relentless, and images of the hostages sparked a wave of national outrage and sympathy. For many Americans, the crisis became a defining moment that highlighted the vulnerabilities of the nation and the complexities of international diplomacy. In an attempt to secure the hostages' freedom, various strategies were considered, including economic sanctions and diplomatic negotiations. However, communication between the U.S. and Iranian leadership was fraught with miscalculations and misunderstandings. Carter's administration struggled to find a viable solution, while the public's frustration mounted. The crisis took on a life of its own, spilling into the political arena and influencing the 1980 presidential election. During this period, the U.S. made a failed attempt to rescue the hostages through a military operation known as Operation Eagle Claw in April 1980. The mission was poorly planned, and the combination of mechanical failures and a sandstorm led to a disastrous outcome, resulting in the deaths of 8 American servicemen. The failure intensified the already strained relationship between the U.S. and Iran, and left the Carter administration in a precarious position. As the crisis dragged on, it became clear that resolving the situation would take time. Talks continued even as the hostages remained in captivity for 444 days. It was not until the election of Ronald Reagan in November 1980 that a moment of change occurred. Reagan's campaign hinted at a tougher stance toward Iran, and amid the changing political climate, a deal was struck. On January 20, 1981, the day Reagan was inaugurated, the Iranian government finally agreed to release the hostages, coinciding with the culmination of negotiations that included the unfreezing of Iranian assets held in the U.S. This moment marked a significant turning point in U.S.-Iran relations, and while the hostages were released, the psychological scars of the ordeal would linger for years. The Iran hostage crisis had far-reaching consequences. It dramatically influenced U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East and shaped the political landscape for years to come. The crisis cultivated a sense of mistrust between the two nations that persists to this day. Many Americans began viewing Iran through a lens of suspicion and hostility, which was further compounded by subsequent events in the region, including the Iran-Iraq War and the rise of militant groups. Looking back, the Iran hostage crisis serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of understanding international relations and the complexities that arise from historical grievances. The experiences of the hostages, their families, and the impacts on American society underscore the notion that diplomacy, while often fraught with challenges, remains an essential tool in the effort to foster peace and cooperation amongst nations. As we reflect on this significant event, it becomes evident that the ongoing dynamics between the United States and Iran continue to evolve, shaped by the lessons of the past and the uncertainties of the future. The legacy of the Iran hostage crisis is not just about the hostages themselves, but also about the broader implications for diplomatic engagement and the necessity of finding common ground amidst adversity. It reminds us all of the human element in international crises, emphasizing the importance of compassion, understanding, and dialogue in navigating the complexities of global affairs. In conclusion, the Iran hostage crisis was more than a standoff. It was a moment that defined a generation and set the tone for future U.S.-Middle East relations. By studying this historical episode, we gain valuable insights into the intricate web of politics, culture, and history that shapes our world today. The significance of the crisis continues to resonate as nations grapple with the realities of diplomacy, sovereignty, and the quest for understanding amidst turbulent times. The Eichmann Rescue is a gripping story set in the backdrop of the aftermath of World War II, where the world was still reeling from the shocking events that took place during the war. It revolves around one of the most notorious figures in history, Adolf Eichmann, who was crucial in orchestrating the logistics of the Holocaust. Eichmann's actions had brought unimaginable suffering to millions, and his capture became a significant event not just for Israel, but for humanity as a whole. In the wake of the war, Eichmann managed to evade justice for many years. Fleeing to Argentina, he lived under a false identity, a seemingly ordinary life. This was not uncommon for many war criminals who sought refuge in South America. The Argentine government was sympathetic to some of these figures, turning a blind eye to their pasts. Eichmann settled in a quiet suburb of Buenos Aires, where he married, raised a family, and blended into the society around him. But his past could not remain hidden forever. The story of his eventual capture by Israeli agents is nothing short of remarkable, and showcases the complexities of justice, morality, and national pride. In the early 1960s, Israeli intelligence agencies had embarked on a global manhunt for Eichmann. Their efforts were part of a broader initiative to bring Nazi war criminals to justice, but it was also an emotional and personal mission for many who had survived the horrors of the Holocaust. The operation to locate and capture Eichmann was meticulously planned. Intelligence was gathered from various sources, and agents infiltrated Argentine local circles to establish his whereabouts. After years of searching, they finally found him, living a relatively comfortable life, seemingly free from his past. Once they pinpointed Eichmann's location, the Israeli agents faced an enormous challenge: how to capture him without inciting an international incident. Argentina was a sovereign nation, and any move to take Eichmann would require careful consideration of diplomatic relations. The agents decided to use the cover of an Israeli scientific mission. They carefully crafted a plan to spring Eichmann from his mundane life back into the spotlight of the world stage. The day of the operation arrived, filled with tension and anticipation. Agents shadowed Eichmann for several days, documenting his routines and identifying the best moment to strike. The atmosphere in the operation team was a mix of anxiety and adrenaline. They understood the significant implications of their actions, the potential fallout, and the hope it represented for so many. When the moment finally came, it was swift and decisive. The agents approached Eichmann in his neighborhood, using non-lethal methods to subdue him. The operation was successful, and they quickly bundled him into a vehicle, taking him away from the life he had built. Eichmann was flown to Israel, where he would finally face justice for his crimes against humanity. This act was seen not only as a victory for Israel, but also as a symbolic gesture to all victims of the atrocities committed during the war. It represented hope and a step towards reconciliation, a means to confront a dark past. Upon his arrival in Israel, Eichmann was put on trial, where his actions were painstakingly examined. The trial became a global spectacle, and one of the first major public reckonings with the horrors of the Holocaust. Testimonies from survivors and families of victims elicited a range of emotions from shock to profound sorrow. Words cannot express the trauma that unfolded during those dark years in history, but here, in the courtroom, those feelings found a voice. The process of accountability was essential, not just for those directly affected, but for society as a whole, offering a chance to reflect and recognize the depths of human cruelty. The Eichmann Rescue and subsequent trial raised many ethical questions about justice, memory, and forgiveness. It scrutinized how society remembers its past, and the importance of ensuring that such atrocities are never forgotten again. The response to Eichmann's trial initiated discussions about the nature of culpability and responsibility, emphasizing that understanding history is key to creating a better future. This captivating story intertwines personal narratives, historical significance, and moral complexity. It highlights how singular events reverberate through time, affecting countless lives in ways that are often unimaginable. The efforts of those involved in the Eichmann Rescue stand as a tribute to the resilience of the human spirit and the undying quest for justice, reminding us of the importance of confronting our past and striving for a world where such horrors are not repeated. Through the lens of this extraordinary event, we are compelled to examine the broader implications of justice for crimes against humanity and the role of nations in enforcing accountability. The legacy of the Eichmann trial continues to resonate today, reminding us all of the importance of vigilance in upholding human rights and dignity, ensuring that the echoes of history shape our path forward. As the world today grapples with many of the same issues regarding human rights, justice, and memory, the lessons learned from events like the Eichmann Rescue are more pertinent than ever. They challenge us to reflect on our responsibilities, both as individuals and as a society, to acknowledge the past, learn from it, and fight against the repetition of such dark chapters in history. Understanding these narratives equips us to engage in meaningful conversations about humanity, justice, and our collective future, shaping our roles in an interwoven tapestry of history where each thread matters. As we delve into the lessons from this remarkable story, we find not only a chapter of the past, but also guiding principles for our journeys ahead. The Amarnath Yatra is a significant pilgrimage in India, drawing thousands of devotees each year to the sacred cave of Amarnath in the Himalayas. This journey is not just a test of faith, but also a venture into a stunning landscape filled with towering mountains, lush valleys, and rushing rivers. As pilgrims embark on this spiritual quest, they are filled with devotion and anticipation to witness the ice Shiva Lingam, a natural formation resembling the Hindu deity, which is believed to hold great religious significance. However, the yatra has also faced its share of turmoil, particularly highlighted by a series of kidnappings that shocked the nation and drew international attention. Such incidents, although not frequent, have marred the peaceful nature of this sacred journey, transforming it into a scene of fear and uncertainty for many. In the backdrop of the Amarnath Yatra, the economic and social fabric of the region intertwines deeply with tourism. The influx of pilgrims supports local businesses, and the pilgrimage season is a vital time for the local economy. Yet, the unsettling events surrounding the kidnappings have raised concerns among both locals and government authorities about the safety and security of the tourists and residents alike. The atmosphere of the yatra traditionally radiates joy and spirituality, with elaborate rituals, chants, and the sharing of stories that connect people from diverse backgrounds. Pilgrims travel in groups, sharing their experiences and forming bonds that are often carried beyond the journey itself. Yet, amidst this backdrop, the kidnappings acted as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities that can arise, even in the most peaceful settings. Vulnerable individuals, such as those embarking on this profound journey, faced unexpected challenges and dangers. News of these kidnappings spread rapidly, eliciting a strong response not just from the government but also from the community at large. Authorities launched investigations, looking into possible motives and ensuring enhanced security measures for future pilgrims. The outcry reached far beyond India's borders, as international news outlets covered the events, bringing global awareness to the plight of pilgrims engaged in what is supposed to be a peaceful and spiritual journey. Families of the victims often found themselves in unimaginable distress. Their stories and struggles illustrated the human impact of such tragedies. They sought justice and clarity, wanting to understand why their loved ones became targets during a journey meant for reflection and peace. These personal accounts brought a harrowing reality to the forefront, showing that, while the majority of the yatra is filled with positive experiences, there can be dark moments that affect lives deeply. In response to the rising threats, organizers and local governments took significant steps to enhance measures for the safety of devotees. In some areas, increased police presence and surveillance were implemented to deter potential threats. New protocols were established to ensure that everyone could enjoy the yatra without fear, reflecting a collective resilience in the face of adversity. Despite these challenges, the spirit of the Amarnath Yatra endures. Pilgrims continue to make the journey, driven by faith and the hope of spiritual renewal. Their resolve is a testament to the power of belief, the quest for peace, and the determination to overcome fear. The yatra represents not just a physical journey, but a metaphorical one as well, showcasing humanity's resilience in seeking out hope amidst despair. Various community initiatives have begun to emerge, aimed at fostering understanding among different groups within the region. Religious leaders have come together to promote peace, emphasizing shared values and the importance of preserving the sanctity of the pilgrimage experience. This initiative highlights how, in the aftermath of conflict, there can be a movement towards reconciliation and healing. As the narrative of the Amarnath Yatra progresses, it serves as a microcosm of larger societal challenges and triumphs, where traditions meet the reality of modern-day issues. The events surrounding the kidnappings remind us all to honor the sanctity of faith and the experiences that bind us together as a community. In the hearts of those who travel for spiritual fulfillment, there lies a desire for change, peace, and understanding, reflecting a hope for a future where the beauty of the yatra is preserved and celebrated in harmony. Moving forward, the narrative of the Amarnath Yatra serves not just as a call to reflect on safety and security, but also as an invitation to explore the deeper connections within our communities. This journey may serve as a reminder of the strength we possess in unity, the support we can offer one another, and the enduring support for those who seek solace and meaning in their lives. As people share their stories and experiences, we witness the transformative power of collective resilience. Each year, many pilgrims return home, transformed by their experiences, empowered to share their journeys and the lessons learned along the way. These shared narratives enrich the cultural tapestry, reminding everyone of the significance of community, faith, and trust in one another, reinforcing the notion that, while adversities may arise, hope and strength can prevail through unity and understanding. Thus, the Amarnath Yatra stands not only as a pilgrimage, but also as an evolving tale of humanity, illustrating the light that can emerge even from the darkest moments. Each footstep taken in devotion represents not just individual belief, but a shared journey toward peace, compassion, and the sacred bond that connects all individuals in their search for meaning and community. In documenting these events, we find that it is crucial to remember the victims and their families, while also striving for a future where the Amarnath Yatra remains a symbol of unity and hope, one that brings people together in the spirit of love, understanding, and collective strength. This journey continues to captivate the hearts of many and serves as an enduring testament to faith's power to foster community support, resilience, and harmony amongst diverse backgrounds. The lessons learned from the Amarnath Yatra extend beyond the mountain paths and sacred caves. They reach into the hearts and minds of individuals, prompting all to reflect on their own journeys and the importance of compassion and solidarity in an ever-changing world. The Aldo Moro affair is one of the most significant and dramatic episodes in Italian political history, occurring in the late 1970s. Aldo Moro, a respected statesman and Prime Minister of Italy, was known for his attempts to create a broad coalition government that included both the Christian Democrats and the Italian Communist Party. This initiative, known as the Historic Compromise, aimed to stabilize Italy's political landscape, which was marred by social unrest and terrorism. On March 16, 1978, Aldo Moro was kidnapped in the heart of Rome. This sudden event shocked the nation and sent it into a state of chaos. A group known as the Red Brigades, a Marxist-Leninist terrorist organization, carried out the kidnapping. They were vehemently opposed to the historic compromise, seeing it as an unacceptable collaboration with the ruling elite. The Red Brigades believed that kidnappings would bring attention to their cause and provoke revolutionary change in Italy. During the initial days following the abduction, the nation was engulfed in anxiety and uncertainty. The Red Brigades made their intentions clear in a series of demands, which included the release of incarcerated members of their group. The Italian government, led by Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti, faced a tremendous dilemma. They were deeply aware of the Red Brigade's ruthlessness and the potential consequences of capitulating to their demands. The government opted not to negotiate, adhering to a policy of non-compliance with terrorist demands. As days turned into weeks, the saga unfolded in terrifying ways. The Red Brigades taunted the authorities, releasing statements and even photographs that showcased Aldo Moro in captivity. The psychological warfare they waged heightened public fear and intensified the urgency for a resolution. Friends and family of Moro, along with many political allies, worked tirelessly to secure his freedom. They appealed to the Red Brigades, urging them to release the Prime Minister as an act of humanity. However, the terrorists remained steadfast, insisting on their demands. Public sentiment during this period was mixed. Many Italians sympathized with Moro and his family, calling for his safe return. Rallies and protests erupted across the country, with people lighting candles and placing flowers in solidarity. However, there were also voices that argued for a harder stance against political violence, reflecting the deeply divided nature of Italian society at the time. The case took a tragic turn when, after 55 days in captivity, Aldo Moro was brutally murdered. On May 9, 1978, his body was discovered in the trunk of a car parked in a Roman street. The shocking news sent waves of grief and outrage throughout Italy. The circumstances surrounding his death raised numerous questions regarding the tactics and effectiveness of Italy's counterterrorism efforts, as well as the government's refusal to negotiate. In the aftermath of Moro's assassination, the Italian government launched a widespread manhunt for the perpetrators. The Red Brigades faced increased scrutiny from law enforcement, leading to a crackdown on their activities. Many members were arrested, and by the early 1980s, the organization found itself rapidly losing influence. Yet, the moral and political questions raised by Moro's kidnapping and murder continue to resonate. Moro's legacy remains a topic of discussion and debate in Italy. He is often remembered for his commitment to political dialogue and for his efforts to bridge divides in a polarized society. His untimely death marked a turning point in the fight against terrorism in Italy, galvanizing the public and the government to confront radical elements more vigorously. The Aldo Moro affair serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities of political power, violence, and the fragility of human life in the face of ideological extremism. It illustrates how a singular event can shape national psychology, influence policy decisions, and leave an enduring mark on a nation's collective memory. The events surrounding Aldo Moro continue to be studied by historians and political scientists as they seek to understand the interplay of power, democracy, and terrorism in modern societies. Many books, documentaries, and films have been created to recount the story of Aldo Moro, exploring not only his life and political career, but also the broader societal impact of the events that unfolded during that tumultuous time. The motivations of the Red Brigades, the responses of the government, and the massive public outcry all highlight a complex tapestry of human actions driven by fear, ideology, and the pursuit of power. As new generations learn about the Aldo Moro affair, it not only serves as a historical case study, but also as a cautionary tale on the importance of dialogue, understanding, and listening to differing perspectives. In a world where political tensions continue to exist, the lessons gleaned from Aldo Moro's life and tragic fate remain ever relevant. The interplay of politics, ideology, and violence is a dance as old as time, and it is crucial for societies to navigate these turbulent waters with wisdom and compassion. The legacy of Aldo Moro transcends his political achievements and the tragic circumstances of his death. It emphasizes the essential need for cooperation among opposing factions, the importance of comprehending the motives behind radical actions, and the weight of empathy in political discourse. The ideological divides that plagued Italy during Moro's time are reflected in many societies worldwide, reminding us of the universal challenges that confront those in power today. Ultimately, the Aldo Moro affair is not just a story of tragedy. It is a narrative steeped in the complexities of human nature, the quest for understanding, and the relentless pursuit of peace amidst chaos. It is a call to remember that within every political struggle lies the potential for dialogue, and that compassion should always anchor our actions, regardless of the depth of our differences. The story endures, continuing to inspire discussions about the importance of democracy, civil rights, and the need to find common ground in an increasingly divided world. The lessons learned from this chapter of history remind us that the stakes are high. In our pursuit of justice and truth, we must always choose the path of understanding and humanity. In the late 1970s, a shadowy event unfolded that would change the lives of many individuals and ignite international tension. The story revolves around a young girl named Megumi Yokota, who was just 13 years old when she was abducted in 1977. Her disappearance shocked her family and community in the coastal town of Niigata, Japan. Despite extensive searches and investigations, Megumi's whereabouts remained unknown for years, shrouded in mystery. At the time of her abduction, Japan and North Korea were experiencing heightened tensions, a consequence of the broader Cold War climate that was enveloping the globe. The political landscape at that time was defined by fierce rivalries, particularly between the United States and the Soviet Union, which influenced various nations, including North Korea. The North Korean regime was notorious for its secretive operations and willingness to engage in espionage, which included the kidnapping of foreign nationals. Megumi was one of many who were taken. North Korea sought to bolster its intelligence capabilities, and kidnappings were a means to train agents and gather information. The North Korean government was pursuing various methods of espionage, and recruiting Japanese citizens was seen as an effective tactic. Young, unsuspecting individuals were often targeted. They were easier to manipulate and could be trained in the techniques of the state. The details of Megumi's abduction were harrowing. As she walked home from school on a chilly autumn evening, she was approached by an individual who had no apparent motive for harm. In a moment that would alter the course of her life, she was taken against her will. Her family, frantic with worry, launched extensive search efforts, but their daughter was nowhere to be found. Days turned into weeks, then years, and the hope of finding Megumi began to dwindle. In the face of despair, Megumi's family did not give up. They became advocates, calling on the government to take action. They held vigils, circulated petitions, and raised awareness about her disappearance. Their determination resonated across Japan, and the case captured the public's imagination. The plight of Megumi Yokota became emblematic of many similar stories, portraying the relentless pursuit of justice by families torn apart by state-sponsored abductions. As years passed with no resolution, the complexity of international politics deepened. In the late 1990s, during a thaw in relations between North Korea and Japan, the story took an unexpected turn. In 2002, during a summit meeting between the two countries, North Korean officials admitted to the kidnapping of several Japanese citizens, including Megumi. This shocking admission sent ripples through Japan, stirring both hope and outrage. North Korean leader Kim Jong-il claimed that Megumi had passed away in 1994, but her family was unconvinced. Over the years, Megumi had become an international symbol of the injustices stemming from the Cold War. Her parents continued to fight for acknowledgement and reparation, conducting personal campaigns and collaborating with advocacy groups. They pressed for a full accounting of all abductees, as their daughter was not the only one taken. Estimates suggest that hundreds of Japanese citizens fell victim to similar actions during this tumultuous era. The emotional toll of Megumi's abduction and the struggle to bring her story to the forefront of public awareness revealed the lengths families would go to seek closure. Events were held across Japan to commemorate Megumi and others like her. Documentaries and books provided a platform for storytelling, allowing the public to engage with the emotional narratives of the victims and their loved ones. The focus was on preserving the legacy of those who had vanished and championing their rights. In the years following the admission by North Korea, hopes for a reunion with Megumi flickered like a candle in the wind. Efforts to negotiate her return brought both progress and setbacks, as discussions were often tangled in the web of broader geopolitical tensions. The diplomatic landscape remained complex, with North Korea's nuclear ambitions casting a long shadow over any talks regarding abductees. This situation exemplified how personal tragedies were intertwined with global politics, illustrating the pervasive impact of the Cold War. Megumi's story also sparked broader discussions about human rights and the responsibilities of governments to protect their citizens. The international community began to pay closer attention to the phenomenon of abduction, recognizing that individuals like Megumi Yokota were more than just statistics. They were beloved family members with dreams, hopes, and futures. Their stories demanded urgency and compassion, shedding light on the often invisible consequences of state-sponsored actions. The narrative of Megumi continued to touch hearts and inspire activism across borders. Her plight encouraged others to come forward, blending their voices in advocacy against abduction and human rights abuses. Organizations emerged dedicated to preventing further kidnappings, raising awareness of the ongoing challenges faced by victims and their families. Each story shared added to a powerful tapestry of resilience, echoing the urgent call for justice and transparency. Despite the distance of time, Megumi Yokota's legacy persists. Her name has become synonymous with the struggle against oppressive regimes who disregard human dignity. She represents the enduring spirit of hope, the yearning for answers, and the relentless pursuit of truth. As families continue their quests for justice, Megumi's story serves as a beacon of resilience and the unwavering strength found in love and determination. The abduction of Megumi Yokota is a poignant reminder of how personal tragedies are often rooted in larger political contexts. Her experience symbolizes the countless lives altered by the fierce currents of geopolitical tension during the Cold War. The darkness of her disappearance has sparked light in the form of advocacy, compassion, and an uncompromising demand for justice, inspiring generations to work tirelessly to ensure that stories like hers are never forgotten. In the face of adversity, the continued efforts to reclaim lost voices resonate with hope for a more compassionate and just world. Olive Oatman's story begins in the early 1850s, during a time of great change and upheaval in the American West. Born in 1837 in Illinois, Olive was part of a pioneer family looking to seek new opportunities in the West. In 1851, when Olive was just 14 years old, her family decided to join a wagon train headed for California. Like many others, they were drawn by the promise of land and prosperity. The journey was fraught with challenges, and the Oatman family faced numerous hardships along the way. Tragically, in February of 1851, while traveling through Arizona, the Oatman family encountered a group of Yavapai Native Americans. After a violent confrontation, Olive and her younger brother Adam were taken captive. The rest of the Oatman family was killed during this encounter, marking the beginning of a harrowing chapter for Olive. Initially held by the Yavapai, Olive and Adam went through a period of confusion and fear. However, as time passed, it became clear that their future would be very different from what they had known. Sadly, Adam did not survive long in captivity. He died shortly after their capture due to the harsh conditions and treatment they faced. Olive was left alone, navigating an uncertain future without her family. After spending some time with the Yavapai, Olive was eventually sold to the Mojave tribe. This marked a significant turning point in her life. While the circumstances of her capture were difficult, the Mojave people treated her with a degree of kindness and integration into their community. Olive adopted their customs and learned their language. This period allowed her to develop resilience and adaptability, qualities that would serve her throughout her life. Living with the Mojave, Olive experienced culture and community in ways she had never imagined. She was given a new name, which reflected her new life among the tribe. Her experience provided her with unique insights into the Mohawk community's traditions, social structures, and ways of life. The Mojave were known for their strong kinship bonds, and Olive became accustomed to the communal lifestyle, which emphasized shared resources and mutual support. As time passed, Olive learned to navigate her new reality, building relationships within the tribe. The Mojave were known for various practices, from agriculture to trade, and Olive played a role in this vibrant culture. She became acquainted with the daily routines of the tribe, understanding the importance of collaboration in maintaining the community's livelihood. Over the years, Olive learned essential skills, such as weaving baskets and farming. The anthropological aspects of her life grew more intricate as she adapted to the routines of her new family. The Mojave were skilled artisans, and Olive's participation in these activities allowed her to contribute to the tribe and solidify her place within it. As her time with the Mojave continued, Olive witnessed significant cultural practices, including traditional ceremonies and the spiritual significance they held for the tribe. The sense of community and belonging that she found among the Mojave became an essential part of her identity. Instead of being a lost girl from a settler family, she became a part of something much larger than herself. In the 1850s, Olive's journey took another turn. After several years of living with the Mojave, her fate began to change. A group of American traders encountered her and recognized the uniqueness of her story. They could see that she was a white woman who had been living among Native Americans, a situation that sparked curiosity and intrigue. After much negotiation, Olive was eventually returned to her people in 1856. However, the reunion was bittersweet. The landscape of her old life had changed drastically, and she was no longer the same girl who had left Illinois years ago. Olive faced struggles reattaching to a society that felt alien to her, bearing the weight of her traumatic experiences and the cultural gap. Upon her return, Olive's story began to circulate, capturing the imagination of those who heard it. She became a symbol of resilience and survival, a narrative that spoke to the complexities of cultural intersections during a turbulent period in American history. People were fascinated by her unique perspective and the adventures she had endured. Even though she had returned to her old life, the journey had left a lasting imprint on her. Olive's experiences with the Mojave and her resilience through adversity shaped her understanding of identity and belonging. She had a unique story to share, full of richness and nuances that bridged two worlds. Olive's life after returning home was marked by ongoing adversity as she navigated her place in society. Her tale became an essential part of her identity, symbolizing survival amidst trials. Her transition from captivity to freedom was not simply a return to her previous life, but a new understanding of her place in a modernizing world. Eventually, Olive married and settled down, yet her past experiences always lingered. She spoke about her time with the Mojave and participated in lectures, recounting her life story to both fascinated listeners and scholars interested in Native American histories. Her journey highlighted the complex interactions between different cultures and the impact of westward expansion on individual lives. In the end, Olive Oatman's life serves as a compelling narrative of resilience, adaptation, and identity. It underscores the experiences of many individuals caught in the crossfire of cultural change and conflict during the westward expansion era. Her story continues to resonate, reminding us of the diverse tapestry of history and the personal experiences embedded within it. Olive's ability to navigate her circumstances, build relationships, and adapt to new environments is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. The layers of her life reflect challenges faced by so many during a transformative time in American history, inviting us to consider the lasting impacts of such experiences on individuals and communities alike. The Furman's sibling abduction is an intriguing and haunting story that unfolds in the late 1970s, when a group of children was taken by a cult in a shocking event that would capture the attention of the nation. This harrowing event has its roots in a seemingly normal suburban life that took a turn for the unexpected, creating ripples of fear, confusion, and ultimately, hope. The Furman family, at first glance, appeared to lead an ordinary existence. Living in a quiet neighborhood, the parents, Tom and Linda Furman, dedicated their lives to raising their children, 3 siblings, Mary, David, and little Sarah. These children were known for their vibrant personalities, boundless energy, and a natural bond of companionship that united them. They spent their days exploring local parks, riding bikes, and chasing dreams just like any other kids. However, in the summer of 1975, a dark cloud loomed over their idyllic life. A group that described themselves as spiritual seekers began to make their presence felt in the community. They were charismatic and began to draw people in with promises of enlightenment, belonging, and a life free from societal constraints. The cult, known as the Light of Truth, operated under the guise of a self-improvement group that offered workshops and gatherings which soon evolved into more insidious practices. The Furman siblings, pure-hearted and curious, were inadvertently caught in the cult's web. One fateful evening, during a neighborhood gathering, the children were approached by seemingly kind individuals who spoke of exciting adventures and experiences that awaited them outside their regular lives. The children, innocent to the motives behind such offers, were easily persuaded to join the group for a special outing. This seemingly harmless invitation turned into a nightmare as the children were taken away, swept up in a wave of manipulation and deceit. The community and the parents were thrust into darkness when the children did not return. Panic spread as search efforts began immediately. The police were called in, the media rapidly picked up the story, and community members organized search parties, spreading the word through flyers and announcements. In those early hours, hope battled despair as families gathered in prayer, clinging to the belief that the children would be found safe and sound. In the days that followed, the investigation uncovered shocking details about the Light of Truth cult. This organization was not simply a self-help group. It operated with dark motives, using psychological tactics to recruit individuals, including children, into their fold. Lured by the promise of a utopian community, many lost sight of their own identities and families. The cult had a history of manipulating young minds, and the Furman siblings were now part of this disturbing narrative. Amidst this chaos, the parents became relentless advocates. Tom and Linda dedicated themselves to raising awareness about the dangers posed by cults, sharing their story with local media outlets, and encouraging anyone with tips or leads to come forward. Their determination to find their children became a rallying point, inspiring others to join the cause, and intensifying pressure on law enforcement to act decisively. As the investigation progressed, authorities managed to gather crucial intel about potential locations where the cult might be hiding the abducted children. Searches began to focus on remote areas where the group had been known to hold clandestine meetings. With each lead, the hope of finding the Furman siblings grew, but so did the challenges. The cult had created a dense web of secrecy, and as law enforcement delved deeper, it became apparent that they would need a strategic approach to dismantle the organization. The turning point came about 6 months after the abduction. A local woman who had escaped from the cult bravely stepped forward, sharing her experiences and revealing vital information about the whereabouts of the children. She detailed specific locations in a secluded area where the cult had been known to congregate. This testimony proved invaluable, sparking an intensive rescue operation. On a chilly winter morning, authorities executed a well-coordinated raid on the compound where the cult resided. The operation was shrouded in urgency and tension, as officers knew they had to act quickly to ensure the safety of the children. As they breached the gates of the compound, moments turned into eternities filled with uncertainty. Officers encountered resistance from cult members who were unwilling to let go of their family. Yet, the determination of the law enforcement teams prevailed. After a tense standoff, they located the Furman siblings, who were in surprisingly good spirits despite the odds stacked against them. In a poignant moment of reunion, the children were brought back into the waiting arms of their parents, who had refused to lose hope. Tears flowed freely as the Furman family was finally together again, a poignant reminder of resilience in the face of adversity. The rescue of the Furman siblings made headlines across the nation. It was symbolic of a fight against manipulation and extremism that could exist in the shadows of society. The siblings were welcomed back home, but this experience left an indelible mark on their lives. They would rebuild their futures with newfound strength, each child processing their ordeal in unique ways. In the aftermath, the story of the Furman siblings sparked conversations about cult awareness and the psychological tactics employed by such organizations. Their story transformed into a powerful narrative that educated communities on the importance of vigilance and education surrounding the influence of cult-like behavior. As they grew older, Mary, David, and Sarah became advocates for awareness surrounding cult abductions, sharing their stories in schools and community events. They understood that by talking about their experience, they could help other families recognize the signs and protect their loved ones from being lured into similar situations. Their saga did not end with the rescue. Rather, it became a legacy of hope and courage, demonstrating that even in the darkest times, there exists a light of resilience and the power of family. The Furman siblings took their traumatic past and transformed it into a mission to educate and inspire others, proving that from tragedy can emerge strength. This narrative of survival serves as a reminder of the families that endure trials together and the importance of community when faced with uncertainty. The Furman sibling abduction story continues to resonate, offering insights into the complexities of manipulation and resilience. It emphasizes how communities can come together in times of distress to support one another, while shining a light on the realities of hidden dangers that exist, and how vital it is to be aware of them. Ultimately, the tale of the Furman siblings is not just one of abduction, but of hope, unity, and the unwavering bond of family that can transcend any ordeal. In the early hours of a crisp winter morning in Paris, a plot was unfolding that would soon capture the attention of the nation and leave a stain on the city's reputation as the epitome of romance and art. The year was 1976, and the French Connection kidnapping was about to take place, a dramatic narrative driven by a mixture of power, greed, and intrigue. At the heart of this story were two figures, Emily and her husband Michel. Michel was a wealthy businessman who had made his fortune in the burgeoning real estate market in France. He was known not only for his financial acumen, but also for his connections with influential political figures and organized crime syndicates. Emily, on the other hand, was known for her beauty and charm, which often captivated everyone in her circle. Together, they formed a couple that exuded charisma and affluence, showcasing the glamour of Parisian life. But beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic existence, trouble was brewing. As word of Michel's business dealings spread, they caught the attention of a criminal underworld that saw an opportunity, a chance to kidnap a wealthy businessman and extract a hefty ransom. This would not be an ordinary kidnapping. It was carefully planned, with every detail meticulously crafted. The perpetrators made sure to observe Michel's routines, monitor his schedule, and understand the ins and outs of his life, all to find the perfect moment to strike. The day of the abduction came. It began innocently enough. As Michel was heading to an important meeting, he showed no signs of being aware of the impending danger. As he stepped out of his elegant apartment and made his way to his car, a dark van pulled up abruptly. In mere seconds, the streets of Paris transformed from a bustling urban scene to a crime scene. The kidnappers, well prepared and orchestrated like a heist in a thriller movie, jumped from the vehicle, overpowering Michel before anyone could react. In a flash, he was whisked away, leaving his surrounding bystanders in shock and confusion. Back at his luxurious apartment, Emily was soon to receive the horrifying news. The police were alerted, and a citywide search was launched with urgency and fervor. Investigators gathered surrounding businesses' CCTV footage, hoping to find clues about the van's identity and the individuals involved. The media exploded with coverage, lending the story a life of its own, as reporters camped outside the couple's home and police headquarters, clamoring for the latest updates on the case. As days turned into weeks, the tension mounted. The kidnappers reached out to the family, initiating contact through a predetermined method. They demanded an astronomical ransom, one that was almost unimaginable. Emily was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, oscillating between hope and despair while navigating her newfound reality. She had to summon every ounce of strength to gather the resources necessary to comply with the kidnappers' demands, all while trying to protect her husband's life. While the clocks ticked relentlessly, the police were networking with their contacts both within and beyond France's borders. They collaborated with intelligence agencies and explored the realm of espionage in ways not seen before in a simple kidnapping case. What made this situation even more complicated was the international maneuvering of organized criminal activities. Their inquiries led them deep into the underbelly of drug trafficking operations that spanned across Europe and beyond. The investigation connected with the infamous French Connection drug syndicate, revealing a complex web of illicit activities. As the search continued, a mixture of fear and determination fueled Emily. She mastered the art of calmness and chaos while strategizing and working alongside law enforcement to formulate a plan. Underneath all her sorrow, there persisted an unwavering hope that she would bring back her husband safely. The phone calls from the kidnappers persisted, growing increasingly sinister as their threats loomed over their conversations. In a dramatic twist of fate, law enforcement managed to uncover crucial hints about the abductor's location through an informant, someone from the fringes of the criminal world willing to part with information for a price. This led to a covert operation executed with stealth and precision, creating a sense of urgency in the air. Top agents geared up for a tense showdown in a dimly lit warehouse where Michel was believed to be held captive. The operation was a testament to meticulous planning. As officers secured the perimeter, tension built. The stakes could not be higher. Hours spent waiting felt interminable, each tick of the clock a reminder of the lives on the line and the gravity of the situation. Every detail was crucial, and safety protocols were closely followed to minimize risk to Michel. When the storming of the location finally occurred, the euphoria of the rescue was soon mixed with the heart-pounding drama of uncertainty. The team swiftly moved in, dismantling the kidnappers' operation without losing sight of their primary objective, finding Michel. The ensuing chaos was nothing short of a scene from an action movie, officers making swiftly calculated decisions, a search team fanning out, and a relentless drive towards their goal cutting through the confusion of the unfolding events. In a remarkable turn of events, Michel was found disheveled yet alive, a potent reminder of the harrowing journey he had endured. His return was celebrated, and Emily's anguish transformed into relief as she embraced her husband tightly, their lives forever altered by an experience that had tested their resilience. As the dust settled and the media frenzy quieted, the aftermath of the incident rippled through French society, highlighting systemic issues of organized crime and the vulnerability of even the wealthiest. Though the couple had endured the unimaginable, their story left an indelible mark. It opened discussions about security, the influence of crime on social structures, and how everyday lives could be intertwined with danger in the most unexpected ways. In retrospect, the French Connection kidnapping was more than just a tale of greed and criminal activity. It served as a reflection of the complexities of human emotion, the fragility of life, and the extraordinary lengths individuals would go to protect their loved ones. Even as time moved on and the specifics faded into history, the lessons learned from the ordeal remained as relevant as ever. The importance of vigilance, the strength found in unity, and the recognition that beneath every act of crime lies a spectrum of human stories, each one intricate, dynamic, and deserving of understanding. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, Argentina was engulfed in a period of intense political and social upheaval known as the Dirty War. This was a time when the military dictatorship sought to eliminate dissent and impose a regime of terror on its own citizens. Among the most harrowing aspects of this dark chapter in Argentine history were the Kirchner Youth Abductions, a shocking series of kidnappings targeting young people perceived as political opponents. The Dirty War, spanning from 1976 to 1983, was characterized by widespread human rights violations. The military junta, believing that a comprehensive approach to eradicating opposition was necessary for national stability, employed brutal tactics. Thousands of individuals, many of whom were students, activists, and intellectuals, were forcibly disappeared. Their disappearances left an indelible mark on the Argentine society and contributed to a climate of fear where speaking out against the government was perilous. The Kirchner Youth Abductions specifically refer to the several instances where young individuals were kidnapped, often while on their way to school, meetings, or demonstrations. These abductions were part of a larger pattern of state-sponsored terrorism, where government forces targeted individuals based on their real or perceived political affiliations. It is estimated that around 30,000 people were disappeared during the Dirty War, with many being young adults who stood up for their beliefs. The case of the Kirchner Youth Abductions resonated deeply within Argentina. It became emblematic of the government's campaign against supposed subversives. Families of the abducted youth often found themselves trapped in a maze of bureaucracy and fear as they sought to discover the whereabouts of their loved ones. Many were met with lies and stonewalling from authorities as the state attempted to conceal its involvement in these crimes. For families, this experience was agonizing. They were caught between hope and despair, perpetually seeking answers that were so often denied to them. The young people targeted during this period were often involved in political activism or social movements advocating for change. Their contributions to society were significant. They worked towards a vision of a more just Argentina. Yet, the fear instilled by the dictatorship quashed many of these efforts. The Kirchner Youth Abductions highlighted the lengths to which the military regime would go to maintain control and silence dissent. As the years passed, many stories of survival emerged, illuminating the horror that unfolded during the abductions. Those who managed to survive captivity often spoke of the inhumane conditions they faced. They were held in clandestine detention centers, subjected to psychological and physical torture, and stripped of their identities. This grim reality underscores the lengths of state violence in attempting to eliminate opposition. The aftermath of the Kirchner Youth Abductions and the wider Dirty War brought a profound impact on Argentine society. The scars of this period remain visible as the country grapples with its traumatic history. In the years following the return to democracy in the 1980s, there was a significant push for recognition of the atrocities committed during the Dirty War. The narratives of both victims and survivors began to surface, and a collective memory started to form, ensuring that the experiences of the youth would not be forgotten. Human rights organizations and activists began to investigate the fates of the disappeared youth. The commissions established to uncover the truth sought to document the realities faced by these young individuals. This verifiable history was critical, not only for the families seeking closure, but also for society as a whole, which needed to confront the injustices of its past. The struggle for justice endured, as families of the disappeared youth continued to demand accountability. Many perpetrators of these abductions and other human rights abuses were eventually brought to trial, leading to a slow reckoning with the past. The pursuit of justice was accompanied by a broader movement to ensure that such atrocious acts would never happen again. In recent years, the Kirchner youth abductions have served as a poignant reminder of the price of political repression. Public memorials, art, and literature reflect the legacy of the youth who were taken during this dark time. Through various media, their stories are preserved, symbolizing resilience and the enduring fight for human rights. This period in Argentine history demonstrates the profound impact of political violence on youth and society. The Kirchner youth abductions represent more than just a series of events. They embody the loss, trauma, and ongoing struggle for memory and acknowledgement. The youth who faced abductions stand as a testament to bravery in the midst of fear, and their stories compel us to remain vigilant against oppression. The ongoing efforts to safeguard human rights in Argentina serve to honor the memory of those who were lost during this turbulent era. It is crucial to remember the brave young individuals who stood up for their beliefs and paid the ultimate price for their courage. Their legacy inspires current and future generations to advocate for justice and resist tyranny, ensuring that the horrific events of the past do not repeat themselves. In this way, the Kirchner youth abductions remain etched in the collective memory of Argentina. They remind us of the fight against silence and ignorance in the pursuit of justice and human dignity. As society confronts the shadows of history, it does so with the knowledge that every voice matters, and that the struggles of the past continue to shape the present. Through remembrance and education, the stories of those young victims can live on, guiding individuals towards a future where human rights are respected and protected for all. In the early 2000s, the world began to hear alarming stories of piracy off the coast of Somalia. The sheer audacity of these attacks, often involving heavily armed groups in small speedboats, captured the attention of international media and prompted global discussions about maritime security, terrorism, and the complexities of international law. The Somali pirates became notorious for their hijacking of commercial vessels, holding crews and cargo for ransom, and many incidents brought about significant consequences not only for the victims and their families, but also for governments, military forces, and shipping companies around the globe. The allure of piracy has historical roots. It is not a new phenomenon. However, modern Somali piracy, sparked in part by the lack of effective governance in Somalia, reached its peak between 2007 and 2012. During this period, reports documented the hijacking of dozens of vessels, from massive oil tankers to smaller fishing boats. As these incidents unfolded, tales of captivity began to emerge, filled with harrowing narratives of resilience, fear, and the hope for freedom. One of the most striking elements of these tales is the psychological impact of kidnapping. Innocent civilians, seafarers, found themselves thrust into a nightmarish scenario, often held captive for months in appalling conditions. Witnesses recounted the stark realities that hostages faced: miserable living spaces, scarce food supplies, and the omnipresent threat of violence. Many hostages suffered from severe psychological trauma during and after their ordeal, as the stress of captivity took a toll on their mental health. Among the many compelling stories was that of an Italian merchant vessel, the MV Emma Marsk. In 2008, this massive container ship was captured, and its crew faced the reality of being held hostage in a world foreign to them. Pirates demanded a ransom, running into millions of dollars, showcasing the lucrative nature of such criminal operations. The crew's families, desperate and anxious, held on to a glimmer of hope as negotiations transpired behind the scenes, involving various stakeholders, including governments and private negotiators. There were also narratives centered around heroism and survival among the hostages. In one instance, a group of sailors managed to hatch a plan to escape their captors. Risking everything, they worked together to overpower their guards, seizing a moment of vulnerability. Their swift action led to a daring escape and led to their eventual rescue, showcasing the resilience of the human spirit in the face of dire circumstances. The involvement of navies from different nations played a crucial role in addressing the problem of piracy. Groups like the European Union Naval Force and the U.S. Navy began patrolling the waters off the Somali coast to deter attacks. Providing security to commercial vessels became a coordinated effort, as nations recognized the growing threat to global trade. With the escalation of military presence in these waters, some pirates began to falter. However, the intricate web of global shipping, politics, and local Somali issues complicated the situation, leaving many questions unanswered about the long-term solution. As the years progressed, the focus on the plight of hostages highlighted not just the experience of captivity, but also the stories of resilience and recovery. Many returned home to be welcomed amidst tears, cheers, and celebrations, while grappling with the scars of their experiences. The ongoing support from families, communities, and psychologists became vital as survivors worked to reconstruct their lives after facing such trauma. Their stories became lessons in endurance, underscoring the strength gathered from shared experiences. Interestingly, the tales of Somali pirates drew parallels with historical figures often romanticized in literature and cinema, the swashbuckling pirates of yore. This juxtaposition blurred lines, prompting discussions about ethics, loyalty, and the survival instincts that drive individuals to extreme actions. In some ways, these narratives provoke discourse on the socioeconomic conditions prevalent in Somalia, illuminating why piracy took root as a popular means of income among those struggling to survive amidst political instability and poverty. As the spotlight continued to shine on Somali piracy, a growing number of organizations began to focus on long-term solutions for the issues plaguing the Horn of Africa. Alongside military efforts, humanitarian initiatives aimed to stabilize communities through education, job creation, and economic development became apparent. The hope was that addressing the underlying causes of piracy could prevent future generations from taking to the seas in search of a desperate means to sustain their livelihoods. Documentaries, literature, and academic analyses began emerging to narrate the multifaceted saga of Somali piracy. These mediums not only detailed the gripping stories of individuals, but also encouraged observers to ponder larger questions regarding justice, poverty, and the global community's responsibilities. As discussions evolved, the tales of hostages highlighted the intersection of human rights, maritime law, and international relations, creating a dialogue on the imperatives of creating safer, more stable environments in vulnerable regions. As piracy declined, the narratives shifted. While the focus moved away from Somali waters, the stories of those who endured such hardships remained poignant reminders of both human suffering and resilience. Captive voices became crucial in understanding the complexities of a world where economic desperation can drive individuals to make perilous choices. Their experiences urged society to foster compassion and understanding, reinforcing that behind every statistic lies a person, a story waiting to be told and learned from. Moving forward, the lingering echoes of tales from Somali pirates remind us of the need for a robust approach to global issues rooted in empathy and connection. For every story of despair, there are also stories of strength. Navigating the choppy waters of life can lead to unexpected challenges, but within those challenges lie opportunities for growth, understanding, and a future built on hope. The narratives of hostages serve not only as chilling reminders of the prevalence of violence and crime in our world, but also as testament to the resilience and strength innate to the human condition. This is a reminder that despite darkness, the gentle light of hope and courage is never extinguished, illuminating paths toward a better tomorrow.